Welcome back to the Bad Show. Usually it's the Bill and Doug Show. Today it is the Bill, Ari, Doug Show. Back to the original Bad podcast days. Doug Lesmerises and Bill Landis, joined by Ari Wasserman from On3, but we just know him as our friend Ari. Thanks for being here, man.
Always. Doesn't matter how busy I am, what I'm doing, where I'm at. I'm on the show if I'm asked. So appreciate you guys being here. I'm hoping to see you both in a few weeks as I'll be in Columbus for the Penn State game. Plans that were clearly made before whatever happened in State College happened. But I'm coming, and I'm looking forward to coming back to Columbus. I miss the place.
Nice. Well, it's great to have you here. We're here to talk national title race, and then we're going to do Whatcha at the end. Whatcha watching, Whatcha eating, Whatcha thinking. So we'll just get through this football stuff because people just really want to hear us talk about French toast and Dumb and Dumber reruns or whatever, right? So we know what the people want. Let's start. So this is not a playoff conversation. This is a national title conversation. And what we are attempting to do is figure out how many teams right now we think can win the national title. Bill Landis, how many, just give us a number first. How many teams do you think have a chance to win it all?
I came up with 9. And then I have a 10th that's like an asterisk that I think they could, but I'm not sure they're going to get in. The other 9, I feel like a pretty realistic chance of getting in. Okay.
Ari, how many do you have?
I have 10 with an asterisk. Is that how you say that word?
Okay.
I'm not good at English. And mine isn't about whether or not they can get in. It's a matter of whether I want you to talk me in and out of it because I don't know.
Okay.
And that team is Ohio State. No, just kidding.
And that team is Toledo. I only have 6.
Okay.
And it is because there are some teams that I probably reluctantly would admit are good, but I'm not sure the way they have played that I think they can win 3 or 4 straight and beat good teams repeatedly. So my bar is pretty high. My bar is not it's that, Bill. It's can you win 3 straight against the best teams in the country?
Yeah, which is a good way to think about it, I think, because it is. And all you have to do is remind yourself of the gauntlet that Ohio State had to go through last year to even get to Atlanta, let alone win once it got there. It is no longer merely a conversation of, I think this is a good team that has a really high ceiling. It's can they put it together 4 games in a row against awesome teams?
Right.
Yeah, it's a pretty high bar.
So, Ari, you were saying you thought a couple weeks ago your list would have been longer?
Yeah. Well, I struggle with this conversation because if we were to have this podcast 5 years ago, I would just go look at a talent list and just pick one of the top 5 teams there, and I would be done with it and would have been right 20 out of 21 years. Now it's, do you still believe that there's a certain baseline talent level that a team has to possess in order to do it? I've come off of that pretty heavily in the last 2 years. And then on top of the piece that you were saying, which is, do you think that this team, even with the talent, can put together 3 or 4 games in a row? And I was a little bit more liberal with teams that conceivably could do it because, I always leave the door open, I guess, maybe for the remarkable to happen because I've been wrong so many times because of the remarkable. And I'm very curious to see which 3 I have that wouldn't make your list. And I think you might, I wonder if I could change your mind or vice versa. But it usually, back in the day, you used to do, the answer was 6 before the season started. And I think before the season started, the answer might have been 22. Now that we've seen games play out and records and resumes are starting to take shape, 6 to 11 at this point in the year makes sense to me.
Can I ask a side question before we get into our lists?
Mm-hmm.
Where are you, Ari, on the 4-team versus 12-team playoff as we sit right now?
I've come around to being okay with it. I hated it when it happened because I thought it was unnecessary, but now the sport has shifted where it's 22 teams instead of 6, and I think those spots might be necessary. And the Cam Scattaboo thing that happened last year where nobody knew who he was or, casual fans didn't know who he was and then got to see that happen and play out in the playoff, I thought was a net positive for the league or for the entire sport. And now I think these games are necessary. If it would have been a 12-team playoff in 2019 when LSU won it, it would have just been you would have taken away from the regular season for no reason. And now I think taking away from the regular season has a purpose. So I've thus changed my mind in the last few years.
I will say, Bill, like, is that purposeful, do you think, or did college football just get lucky?
No, they got lucky.
That they did two completely separate things that coincidentally matched up.
Yeah, no, nothing is purposeful. They got incredibly lucky. Nobody could anticipate what was going to happen roster wise, with the combination of NIL, rev share, and transfer portal. But it did flatten out the sport. And then now that the sport has been flattened out, I agree with Ari. Like 12 teams makes a lot of sense. If this was like Saban's heyday, a 12-team playoff, what the hell would have been the point, right? Like,
yeah.
But now it's very different. I don't think anyone's going to dominate the sport and accumulate talent quite in that same fashion ever again. So it's just a happy accident that the two things sort of happened at the same time.
And 12 is a number that they arrived at based on 5 power conferences existing, and those don't even exist anymore. Like the entire way that the conferences are made up now, it doesn't even make mathematical sense on how they crown champions and all those things. So 12 and all the at-large bids that you get in there are necessary, because now we can't even properly crown a champion. If you go look at the ACC and the SEC right now, I don't think we're going to be able to crown a champion without using tiebreakers to get into the title game, which is we're going to use tiebreakers for your own conference championship. How are we going to crown the national championship without these extra spots? So, the number's right, but I still think the system's weird.
In a situation where we have 5 power conference undefeated teams remaining, like I have thought a little bit about the idea of if we were in a 4-team world and you kind of were like, well, I think if Ohio State and Indiana both are 12-0 into the Big Ten title game, maybe they're both in. Then you have the SEC champ, and then you have either the ACC or the Big 12 champ. You have one of those two, but how do you decide? Like that, and it's just like that kind of thing anymore. That makes my stomach hurt as compared to what this is. So, okay. Let's go like this. Let's do it by we'll rotate bringing up a team. Now, when you bring up a team, it has to be a team that you think can win the national title, that is on your list. And then we'll figure out if the other two people also have that team on the list. So, Bill, we'll start with you. Who do you want to start with?
Ohio State.
Oh.
Is there a discussion necessary for this one, or like?
No, I figured we can get the easy one out of the way early.
Okay, so we all agree that Ohio State can win the national title.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'm not. My intent is not to ambush Ari, but I'm 25% going to ambush Ari here.
Do it 100%.
Because here's a quote that I found. And it gives me great joy to like put Ari Wasserman and then some like words that would lead to a college football take into the Google machine and have it pop up. There is a notion that there is a ton of parity in college football this year. A lot of teams still look very good in the playoff race, but are we overthinking it? If blank team goes into Death Star mode, is it just going to be another edition of one of the most talented teams in the country mowing over the competition?
I said that.
Do you know who you said that about?
When did I say it?
You said it in October of 2023. On October 28th, 2023, you tweeted it.
Then I would probably be Bama or Georgia.
It was Georgia. And it was Georgia when Georgia was 8-0. They were beating opponents by an average score of 41-15. And at that point in the season, here were the teams that Georgia had beaten. They'd beaten UT Martin, Ball State, South Carolina by 10, and South Carolina was 2-6 at that point. UAB, they beat Auburn by 7, and Auburn was 4-4. They beat Kentucky 51-13, and Kentucky was 5-3. They beat Vanderbilt by 17, and Vanderbilt was 2-7. And they beat Florida 43-20, and Florida was 5-3. So they hadn't really played anybody yet. They were going to get to this stretch where they're going to play a couple ranked teams. They were the defending national champs. And then we were talking about this, Ari, that like you'll tweet something and it's like, don't tweet it, write it. And then you did write a column about this for The Athletic at the time, I think. But you were in an era of possibly perceived parity. You were asking the question, are we overthinking this? Is it just the defending champs getting rolling? And that's the answer. And then it turned out not to be the answer because Georgia did beat some ranked teams to end the regular season, lost to Alabama in the SEC title game as the number 1 team in the country, and didn't make the playoff. Death Star, that's a phrase that you like to use sometimes. Are you anywhere close to asking the Death Star question about Ohio State?
Yes. I thought you were going to read off a quote of something that was terribly wrong, and then I would just be like, yeah, I was wrong. Like, yeah.
No. I don't want to play that game with myself either. No.
Yeah. And because I'm wrong more than anybody. Yes, I've been asking that question to myself for a month now. And now it looks like they're the last one standing that you could maybe ask that question about. And you guys would be the experts in this. I'm not as close to it as you guys are anymore. But I'm surprised. I wrote columns at the end of last year proclaiming that I felt last year's Ohio State team would be the last of a breed in the super era or super team era. And this team looks like a super team again. And like, I understand Arvell Reese is really good and Jeremiah Smith is good. And like a lot of the players that are very good on their team are high school grown. I'm familiar with how Ohio State made their roster, but are you guys surprised that they are in super team mode this far into the NIL era? And I think that the rest of the country should probably be catching up to this if they haven't caught up to it already.
No, I don't think I'm surprised. Like just understanding what they had been stacking in their recruiting classes. And they actually, the funny thing about it is like the class that would be seniors right now, like blew up, right? Like there's 7 guys from that 2022 class that would be their 4th year guys right now. But it just so happens that the 2023 and 2024 class have a bunch of juniors and sophomores who are really good. So, but like I had a feeling they could be, I guess. That was like my thing after they beat Texas is like, and it's no one's fault really in the national media, but like there was just a fundamental misunderstanding, I think, of like what was waiting in the wings at Ohio State. But I think Ohio State fans knew what was waiting.
Yeah.
I misunderstood it a little bit. I think I misunderstood it a little bit. I had Ohio State going 10-2, losing to Texas and losing one of these Big Ten games along the way. And the thing that I do think, Ari, it's interesting to think about because a lot of this stuff, like, right, Jeremiah Smith, number 1 recruit in the country, comes from Miami, and Ryan Day is so happy he collapses at the podium. And Sonny Styles is an Ohio State legacy, born and bred. My gosh, what a great player is. And Arvell Reese is reigniting the Glenville pipeline. And we've seen great players from Cleveland come and make an impact at Ohio State all the time. And a bunch of home state offensive linemen. And like that sometimes is what Ohio State does when their teams are really good, right? And all those things. But there is a super team aspect of this in that the greatest college football coach of all time retired, and it gave Ohio State its starting quarterback and the best defensive player in the country. And if Nick Saban was still coaching, Ohio State would be very different. So there's a lot of, yes, this is Ohio State, but there also was a little magic in the air here that helped elevate this team potentially from great to super team.
Yeah. It's interesting because my follow-up question to you, because I actually don't feel like I know the answer or have a great grasp of it, truthfully, is what has Ohio State done in the last 2 years that the other superpowers that were doing better than them for the most part for the past 10 years have failed to do? Because, Alabama's very good this year, and I'm assuming they're on all of our lists. But like Alabama isn't the Alabama from 2020 anymore. That would be something, Doug, if they weren't. Georgia certainly isn't what they used to be. What is the secret sauce for Ohio State where you could take, and like I know that it's probably just high school recruiting and retention, but that you could take as many losses from a team that won a national title last year and then arguably, and like, I don't know, am I crazy? Are they, I don't want to say the word, this used to drive us crazy when I was on the beat, but like, they're playing better than last year right now? Like, what happened?
I don't know that I don't think you can definitively say like they're better yet.
I don't know that they're better, but at this point last year, they're better than at this point last year.
Yeah.
So one of the, I think the thing that happened is they have been less affected by the changes, that they're closer to who they've always been, and the rest of the sport, primarily in the SEC, has come back to them a little bit because Ohio State has been very good at retention. They really have not lost anybody in the portal that they wanted to keep, right? And you watch Damon Wilson running around from Missouri right now, right? And it's like, oh man, that guy would still be helping Georgia if he was there, right? So they've been able to supplement strategically. The portal's been an overwhelming net positive for them. Strategic additions to fill holes, which maybe back in the day when you were recruiting well, but you didn't have as much of the geographic, like all the local kids within 300 miles that SEC teams do, you might have been more likely to have a hole here or there. And they're able to fill those holes. They haven't been hurt by really the portal at all. And then because they have a gigantic alumni base and they are in a pretty major city for a college football team, they've been able to harness NIL pretty well in a way that, again, maybe some of the smaller southern cities, it's a little bit different with NIL. So I don't know that Ohio State is that much better than it's been for the past 10 years. But I think they no longer are looking up at the gigantic glut of talent that would be accumulated at the best SEC schools.
That's right.
That goes back to Jim Tressel losing to Florida in 2006 and being like, oh my God, how's Florida have all these guys?
And it goes back to like our series that we did at cleveland.com together, the indestructible thing. Even through the changes and evolution of the sport, the program has remained indestructible and steady. And other programs that were way up there in the atmosphere, like there's no 2019 LSU team that's just like right around the corner. There's no 2020 Bama, right, or some of those, and those teams don't exist anymore. So in the aggregate, when you look at everything, like there's no, like of these other teams on this list that I have could win the national title. I don't think that any of them, I think half of them wouldn't even be in the same game as Ohio State at the moment. And I don't think any of them could beat them. So yeah, that's a really good point. And I'm happy you say like that makes a lot of sense. And I accept that. Like, that's good.
I think you could, maybe I'll do this. Like, cause we've had the conversations before about what Doug just said, like Ohio State doesn't really ever lose anybody of importance, but like, could you find, like if you go through all the teams we're going to talk about that could potentially win a national title, can you find a star on their team somewhere else in college football who came from one of their programs? Like you mentioned Damon Wilson, but I don't think we'll have Missouri on this list, but like Justice Haynes at Michigan, right? Like, and Michigan or Alabama's probably fine at running back, right? But now like Justice Haynes is Michigan's best offensive player because they got him from Alabama. And it's just like, there's no example of that coming from Ohio State going to, like, some rosters are getting thinned out, even the slightest bit. But right. Ohio State's does not, unless those guys are going to the NFL draft.
So like the example is Jamison Williams and what he did for Alabama as a receiver, but that was like pre this era, right? That was still the old, the old transfer way. But otherwise, no.
A&M lost, like, did you see that stat where like 4 former A&M quarterbacks, I think it's even 5 now, are starting quarterbacks at other programs? Now, I don't know if any of them would raise, like, but like Haynes King is a pretty important loss off of one of them. But the thing that
isn't Wegman playing well for Houston?
Yeah, Wegman's doing pretty well. Yeah. The thing that made me kind of like internally laugh when you were telling me what I was asking, Doug, was that like the portal didn't exist, but like what if like 2013 Ohio State, the first team that we covered together, was able just to go get Caleb Downs and put him in instead of Pittsburgh Brown? Like they would have won the national title maybe. Like it's like that simple. And they're still recruiting at that level, probably even a level higher, and now can supplement holes because they used to have holes every year. Their offensive line one year, their linebackers one year, and then the one that stands out to me the most is defensive back, and a team that lost to Michigan State in the Big Ten championship game. They had a pretty big hole that was taken advantage of in the most crucial of moments, and they never had the ability to go supplement, and that's the right word for it. And they're doing a really good job of that.
And I do think, as we've talked about a lot with Ohio State over the years, Ohio State more often than not is kind of like the northern rep in this thing. And then we're talking about, okay, there's these individual peaks when a great team really gathers everything together. And then that team is better than Ohio State. So in 16, Clemson is better than Ohio State. And in 19, Clemson's better than Ohio State. And LSU's also better than Ohio State in 19. And then in 20, Alabama's better. And then in 22, Georgia's better, right? And it's all these, but it's always Ohio State. And so if you take out, it's harder for those best SEC teams and throw Clemson in there. Their peaks aren't quite as high, Bill. Their peaks aren't quite as high. And now you can see, right? It's like the water, I'm not going to make the right analogy, But it's like, if the peak's not quite as high, like Mount Buckeye is always there. But these individual peaks would jut up. And if it's not jutting up as much anymore, now it's just kind of like Mount Buckeye is sitting there. It's in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, it's like you've seen the posters or like the mountains of the world elevations, and they're all like side by side. And yeah, the Ohio State one has just stayed where it's always been.
And this would make sense if mountains changed to elevation over
Yeah.
year over year. But the one thing that I would
years.
push back a little bit on is, like, wouldn't last year's Ohio State team still have been the highest mountain against some of those other high mountains that you pointed out from 2016 to 20? I think last year's Ohio State team could have beaten a lot of the national championships from the heyday of the 4-team era. I mean, I don't know, not all of them. I don't know.
They're great. They also lost twice and were down to a do or die play in the fourth quarter against Texas. So, like, what would they have done against Joe Burrow LSU? What would they have done against Deshaun Watson Clemson? What would they have done against 2020 Mac Jones, Devontae Smith, Alabama? They were great.
2019 Ohio State, right? Definitely better than
2019 Ohio State. Yeah, right.
Well, whenever I think about those, the final team, or like going back and doing this like hypothetical game, which if I could have any superpower in the entire world, it would be to create a AI version of a reality and then answer those questions where I could like get.
No, it wouldn't. It would be to eat whatever you want and not gain weight.
That's right. That would be number one. Number two would be I've still eaten what I want. I just gain weight. Like, that's just the trade-off. But like, if you put Justin Fields on the Vikings the last 5 years, would he be a good quarterback in the NFL? I would love to know the answer to that. But yeah, I always think of the final product, though, Doug. Like, I think of the team that showed up on the final day of the season and played Notre Dame versus the team that on the final day of the season in 19 that won the national title, and the Alabama team that ran Ohio State out of the building in New Orleans. Like, those are not like what happened during the season, but the final product, everybody playing well. I think they would give them a game, and I still think to this day that 19 Ohio State would have given 19 LSU a game if they would have made it that far. So, but Ohio State's peaks are very high still. Like, their peak hasn't moved down at all, and other people's have around them. And I think that's a pretty astute point. So
the other thing I want to ask you about, Ari, about Ohio State is, if you have been pondering what if the answer to this season is just Ohio State's the defending champ, they're still really good, and it's Ohio State against the field, do you think that's a common view nationally? Because I'm going to end my question there. Do you think other people see Ohio State that way?
I do.
You do?
I think, I mean, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of people in the SEC world that have microphones in front of them that say things. I don't know how you could be an unbiased observer of the sport, watch Ohio State play, watch all the other games, because I watch every game now, and I know you guys watch a lot of football too, but I watch, Thursday night, Friday night, like, I'm locked in. Ohio State is a level above. When Ohio State plays, it looks like they're not even breaking a sweat to me. It's like they're just swatting the teams that they're playing away. And, it doesn't even look like they're going full gear because they don't have to. And I feel like every other team that plays games has to strain every last muscle in their body in order to get to the W in half of their games. And outside of the Texas game, like, has Ohio State really broken a sweat this year?
They've never been in danger. I mean, they've had some like first quarters where it's 7-3 at the end of the first quarter, but never in a way that was like, uh-oh. Right, Bill?
No, they haven't trailed in the second half. The only times they've trailed have been by a field goal early to Ohio and Washington.
I will just say, Ari, and I can't pretend that I listen to or watch everybody, but to me, it felt like when Georgia was rolling, there was more of a Georgia versus the field conversation than there is with Ohio State right now in a fairly similar circumstance. And I actually think 23 Georgia is going for a three-peat. Ohio State's only going for a repeat, but 23 Georgia with the new quarterback, right? Because the first two Georgia titles are Stetson Bennett. It's like Carson Beck, the schedule early is like not that tough. Like, what do you think? I think is actually a decent comparison for Ohio State. And I just feel like my perception has been there was more discussion then about the inevitability of Georgia than there is now about Ohio State. It feels like to me there's some part of the discussion right now that is, man, it's a wide open and crazy season. Who knows what's going to happen? Not there's Ohio State and then it's crazy behind them.
So I think I might have misunderstood what you were saying. I think that people would probably view Ohio State as the favorite, but I think the groundswell of natural acceptance that Ohio State's just going to go win it is not like that Georgia team. I think you're correct.
Okay.
Now, I think there
could that be a reflection of the differences in the sport now, though? Like,
yes, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, like, I think that if you actually wanted to investigate why it isn't an anti-Ohio State, anti-North thought process, I think it's one, people have watched Indiana go out to Eugene and beat the crap out of Oregon, and I think people are less likely in today's game to assume outcomes of future games. And then two, I think that the SEC schedule insisting upon itself as a ringer that the Big Ten is not, I think has the southern portion of the country still doubting the North's strength. So, like, in their schedule, because Texas isn't what we thought they were going to be this year, doesn't have a lot of who have they beaten, like sexy wins. So when you combine those two things, I think it's easy to cast doubt on Ohio State and dismiss them to a certain extent as an unknown entity. But the frustrating thing, I think, for people who listen to the show, and probably you, Doug, is that Georgia never got viewed through the magnifying glass kind of with the same scrutiny or the same side eye that Ohio State does at times in the national narrative.
Yeah. Illinois is 5-2, Minnesota's 5-2, Washington's 5-2, and they're just not ranked in the 20s in the polls the way a bunch of 2-loss SEC teams are. So I've had that discussion plenty. We don't have to have it here.
And I want to go on record and say that it's right. And I co-host a podcast with a person who is very SEC brained, and I think he would admit that. So, like, I do my best to do my part on the show to make sure that the teams, and like Andy is good. He like will acknowledge that Indiana's a wagon, like he knows Ohio State is, but he affectionately calls Ohio State like an SEC team in the North, like that's the way the prism through which he views the sport. And I do my best on our national show to explain to the people what Ohio State is that are more reluctant to accept it because they didn't play Auburn and Mississippi and games like that. Because, like, I would also love to go back and take my AI machine and see Illinois go play the SEC schedule, or last year's Indiana team go play last year's SEC schedule, because I am under the impression that Indiana would have done quite well against some of those teams last year that we thought were good that aren't really all that good.
Yeah. Okay. Before we go to Ari's first team here, we're going to remind you that you can go check out some cool gear at rhoback.com, RHOBACK.com. If you put in the code BAD20, BAD20, you'll get 20% off your first order. I was just stepping outside there today. Now, Ari's in the southern part of the country. I'm not sure it's all the way there yet, but Landis, like here in Ohio, quarter zip weather, hoodie weather is here, brother. Right?
It is. Get yourself a hoodie, get yourself a Q-zip, make yourself some chili. It's that time of year.
Yeah. Now, so here's what I would do, though.
Rhoback doesn't sell chili, though.
Yet. I would take off my Rhoback while I eat the chili. Are you guys in that? Like, Ari, do you ever take clothes off to eat messy food?
I am weird in that I don't have a great body, but when I'm at home, I have a shirt on 1% of the time, and because it's 1% of the time I'm podcasting. Like, I don't wear a shirt in my house, period. And people like make fun of me in my life. Like, if like my wife FaceTimes me and she's with people, like I never have a shirt on, because like, why would you wear a shirt in your house? It's weird. But no, I don't take off my shirt. I wouldn't already have a shirt on if I'm eating to begin with. But the Rhoback is a sponsor of our show too. And I will like assist in that it is one of the most comfortable hoodies I've ever worn. Yeah. So I wouldn't want to mess that up.
Yeah.
But what's the point of wearing a shirt in your house? Explain it to me. Who are you hiding from?
Ari's like, doesn't everyone eat chili topless? What are we talking about, Doug? I don't even understand this question.
Doug, if you're at home and you're not working, what percentage of time, like maybe it's different because you've got teenage girls running around, and maybe I'll change when my daughter gets older. But like when my wife is home and it's just my 3-year-old, 4-year-old running around, like I never have a shirt on.
I have never had my shirt off in my house ever.
Okay.
He showers fully clothed.
Do you sleep with the shirt on?
Yes. Most times, yes.
That's crazy.
Bill, what's your shirt situation like in your home?
I usually have one on. Only sometimes I'll sleep with that one on, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
The first thing I do when we're done recording is hit X, and then the second thing is take the shirt off.
Tarps off. Yeah.
And then go make a pot of chili.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Oh,
Roback.
Anyway, this is still all a Roback ad, technically. RHOBACK.com. Hoodies, quarter zips. Go check it out. Game day collection of your favorite team. BAD20 gets you 20% off your first order. Ari, give us a team.
Okay. Should I do layup or obscure? I'll just do layup. I think Indiana can win the national title this year.
Okay.
All right.
Bill, do you agree?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It felt weird. You asked me after the weekend when Indiana beat Oregon, do you think Indiana can win a national title? And I said yes very quickly without thinking about it. And then as I heard it come out of my mouth, it felt weird or sounded weird. But no, of course they can. Yeah, they're great on both sides of the ball.
I would love to hear someone's argument against it. How do you go on the road and beat a team that like Oregon by multiple scores, and then the answer to that be no?
I think the only argument against it would be like the depth piece. Like, do they have the depth of roster to withstand like potential injuries that might pop up, like the way that Ohio State and Notre Dame did last year while getting to the national title?
Yeah. How many years of Indiana being this good do you think it's going to take before you don't like regurgitate every time you say things like that? Because I still find myself, I was on somebody else's podcast this morning and they asked me like a question about Nebraska, and we were talking about losing to Minnesota, and I was like, it's not like they lost to Indiana. What? Like it's like you know, like it's like it's been like programmed in my brain when I think about the bottom of the Big Ten to think about Indiana, because that's the way it always used to be. How many years of Kurt Cignetti success is it going to take where we don't have to like pretend like it's weird that they're on the list?
I think this is it. I assuming they don't collapse, assuming they make the playoff, I think we're here. And then I would actually be, so Mendoza has a year of eligibility, right? But he's also being talked about as QB1. So Fernando Mendoza goes pro, and they don't immediately have a quarterback answer. Like, I actually, Bill, would be more surprised if we're going into next season uncertain about Indiana, because I'm just assuming now that if Kurt Cignetti's the third highest paid coach in the sport, he says he's going to retire in Bloomington, and he's shown he knows how to build a roster in the portal and get the best out of everybody. If it feels like Indiana going into 26 is unsteady or uncertain, that will surprise me.
Nothing gives you pause about the JMU guys that are still hanging around being gone after this year?
I think he can make that place like a number one portal destination, that like he becomes that guy. Now, I mean, you make a very good point. Yeah. That like that it is. And you know, McCall Kamara and Aiden Fisher and all those guys have really mattered, and they've all been there for multiple years. So you make a good point, but like, it's going to take work, but it's work that of course is available to happen. Like, they don't have all the top 150 high school recruits on their roster just to fill in right now. No. But I don't have any doubt that they will be able to fill in with good players in the portal and build a good team.
Well, go ahead, Bill.
I was going to say, like, it's not like none of those guys that went with him from JMU to Indiana were like top rated guys in the portal. Like, the fact that they're so good at Indiana is nothing more, or is an endorsement of their ability to identify and develop players. And also, if they develop people who were already in the Indiana program when they got there, they've successfully identified a bunch of transfers from other programs. So like, they're, whatever it is, their scouting department, their eye for talent, I would say is up there with the best in the country based off what they've been able to bring to that program. Not only to Indiana, but what they brought into JMU and then brought with them to Indiana.
Landis and I have bro catch-ups every now and then, and we were talking about this on the phone yesterday, and this is the one thing that gives me pause, is not just about Indiana, but any program that's been highly transient, is there a lesson to learn from Florida State, and how much of talent evaluation in the portal is being in the right place at the right time, and how much of that is sustainable. And then when you lose the players that you brought through your portal, whether they're in your program for 1 year or two, can you be even if you become the portal destination that Ole Miss has become, can you sustain a playoff level team year over year over year in the Big Ten doing it that way? Like, or at a certain point, do you need to revert back to signing top 15 classes in order to remain consistent? And like, I don't know the answer to that yet. But I would be surprised whether that, and that's not an anti-Kurt Cignetti, discussion. I think it's an anti-over-reliance on the portal thought, which is if you never get to a point where routinely signing top 20, top 15 classes, because I don't think it's top 5 anymore. I think now you have to do top 20 and then supplement. If you can't do that, then I think eventually you will hit a point where you're no longer able to sustain success. So can he turn whatever happens this year into signing a top 20 class next year? I think is the answer. Not can he get lucky in the portal every year? Because Fernando Mendoza was a great pickup, but like how many years in a row can you do that? Like it's hard.
But Fernando Mendoza could have gone a lot of places, right?
Yeah.
He could have gone a million places. He picked Indiana.
Yeah. But you have to get Fernando Mendoza to pick Indiana, and then it has to hit. And, like all the things that come with the evaluation. I'm not even talking about like being able to get guys to sign. It's most of these portal evaluations are done in a 1 month period or a 1 week period, depending on how long they're in it for. Them producing immediately, all the things. It almost feels like a roulette wheel to me. And it's not an Indiana disguise. Like where we find out, and maybe there's something deeper happening at Florida State, but like the second they lost all their great portal players, the following year they went 2-10. Now, I'm not saying Indiana's going to go 2-10, but winning 11 games in a row every year, you guys have a firsthand seat on how hard it is to do at Ohio State. I feel like doing it at Indiana provides other challenges that are presented that Ohio State doesn't have to face, which is backfilling with internal pieces that came in through high school and have been developing. They don't have that piece yet, and without that piece, it's going to be more difficult to sustain, I think.
Yeah, they have. I'm just looking, and again, we're talking about this year, but like they have a 32nd ranked class right now on the Rivals rankings. Which is like really good for Indiana. But I think he said something. I was watching Cignetti's press conference this week for some reason. I don't know why. And he said something about, he was talking about the portal, and he said like you don't get off of the portal in 2 or 3 years, but the insinuation was like they eventually want to get out of the business of building their roster through the portal. Yeah. And he said like beating Oregon like has opened a lot, like doing what they did last year, coming back this year, being successful, beating Oregon. They can feel it opening doors of high schools. But like that'll be the test. I agree with Ari. Like I don't think you can portal, or I don't think you can like hope to portal your way to the playoff every year. I do think you have to at some point have a baseline of high school recruiting and development to go back there every single year.
And who are the portal kings that before Cignetti showed up that you would think, just off the top of your head? Like all the people who did the best coaches at nailing the portal. Like Mike Norvell was the portal king one year, right? Kiffin. And I don't know who else.
Mel Tucker was.
Okay.
And then
how many portal kings have gone to the playoff?
Well, it's a valid point. I also am leaving room for like he's the exception of the rule.
And Kenny Dillingham? Yeah, that's true.
Like don't try to be Kurt Cignetti.
And Florida State got screwed. So like we can't.
But Cignetti could be Kurt Cignetti. Like that, because he has the, Dion did pretty good for a year, but like he has the, I think he had, and there's a lot of guys who came up through the ranks, but he has such legitimate roots in that I think players would view like guys, and especially his is portal up guys, right? Now Mendoza was, Cal is not the same as JMU, but I think he can continue to clean up in Group of 5 and FCS up transfers, because I think he can sell a message that will resonate with those guys. And then they have the resources to pay him. And then I just think he can win a lot of those battles and like almost count on it in a way that maybe nobody else in the country can.
Yeah.
But also, but this discussion also is not like, is Indiana going to be a playoff team every year? It's like, could Indiana in the next decade, so if they make the playoff this year, they're 2 for 2. The next 10 after that, could they make the playoff 4 or 5 out of those 10 years? And could they have no years in that stretch where they go 2-10? I think that's possible, but I don't think they're going to be like what Penn State's been, where Indiana's 10-2 every year, and it's like, I think they're going to make it 8 out of 10 years.
There's a wide range between it's a wide gap between those two things too. If you could be a program that pops up every 2 or 3 years, because like the other thing he could do too is get portal guys that don't leave after 1 year and develop them and keep them for multiple years, so that they're kind of like remind you of like the portal version of what Michigan State used to be, which is popping up every 3 years because people have been developing behind the scenes, guys that were kind of underrated, and you can do it through the portal that way as well. Like Jared Verse didn't hit till the second year, right?
Well, I can't remember.
I can't remember.
And you look at like what Wisconsin and Michigan State both were for long stretches in the previous era of college football. They would have been playoff teams on the regular. Like
sure.
Those Wisconsin teams that were dominating the Big Ten West. D'Antonio won double-digit games, like whatever it was, 6 out of 8 years. Like that Michigan State team would have been in the playoff all the time. Yep. So that's what you're asking. Can Indiana be that? Yeah. Can Indiana be what Wisconsin and Michigan State have been, which is like be like the third or fourth best team in the Big Ten and not really have dips, not huge fall off a cliff dips? It's like, yeah, I think they can. All right, so we're all in. And by the way, the other thing, Ari, I want to ask you is like, because the thing when Bill and I, when you and I talked about Indiana, Oregon, we had some questions about are they going to be able to compete with Oregon up front, right? Mm-hmm. And then they did. That was the part of this, Ari, for Oregon, Indiana, was the idea that like they didn't look short. 22 against 22, man on man. They looked like they absolutely could hang with Oregon every day of the week.
Absolutely. And that's everybody who watched Notre Dame and Ohio State game last year, like has the same viewpoint of like, well, we know who Pons is, we know who Mendoza is, we know who Serrata is. Like, are there guys in the trenches going to be able to withstand, big bully ball against programs that we perceive to have top 5 talent nationally? I think they unequivocally answered that question. They didn't, that wasn't a fluke. If they played again tomorrow, I think they could beat them again. Like, yeah. And I think that it's funny because, if you want to do like a Northern Big Ten viewpoint of it, I almost feel like Oregon has like died in the spotlight of like the national conversation because they're like, oh, they can't even beat Indiana. And it's like Indiana didn't absorb the credit for beating Oregon that they should have. And then Oregon lost its luster because it lost. And then you're like 0 for 2 in that regard. Whereas in the South, the loser of that game is still a good team and the winner of that game is proven, and that didn't happen there. Mm-hmm. So I hope, for your sake, Doug, I want you to be around for a long time. I hope that, the Big Ten gets its final say again. But like, it's just the narrative thing is so interesting. And like, now that I'm out of Ohio and like looking at it, like I'm more exposed to it than I've ever been before. College football has like undergone an immense amount of change in a short amount of time. And you're trying to rewire people's brains when they've been watching the sport and the way it plays out for 40 years. And, even for people like me and in my age grant, like 20 years, it's like the SEC was winning all the time. So like Indiana has to break that down. The Big Ten has to break that down. And, as much as the SEC and the glory of the Southern pride and the Southern dominance, that took a lot of time too. You're just going to have to chip away at it. So the Indiana-Oregon thing I find amusing, but I also think both of those teams can win the national title. Not to give anything away here. So
okay, well, you can give it away because I'll put Oregon on the table, and I do think Oregon can win the national title. Bill, do you agree?
Yeah, Oregon's absolutely on my list. Yes.
So we had talked in the preseason at Big Ten Media Days, like the idea of sort of angry Oregon, that they were the only undefeated regular season team last year. And then they lost to a team that they had beaten during the regular season and lost in embarrassing fashion. And they did a pretty good job. It was like they had like kind of a third young guys moving up from their team, a third portal guys, a third returning guys, and that it was a pretty good mix. And I think a lot of people felt really good about that. And then Curt Cignetti just went in their house and whooped their butt. But Ari, kind of as you were saying, it's like, well, I think Curt Cignetti might go into a lot of people's houses and whoop their butt. And now, Bill, it feels like they're mad again. And so I still think they're good. I think that Indiana game is much more about Indiana taking care of business than like, oh my gosh, Oregon has all these flaws. And now they're mad, and I think they just might go beat up on a bunch of people by 50 until they get to the playoff.
Yeah, I still think the Oregon-Washington game at the end of the year is going to be one to watch. Like, and it's in Seattle. I think Washington can win that game. But yeah, I fully expect Oregon to kind of run over everybody else that plays until then. I think they play USC. So we'll see. It's not going to be easy, but I do agree that they're angry. I think that will help them. Clearly, they were taking out some frustration on Rutgers this past weekend. But they're good. They're just a good team that played another good team and lost, right? Like last year, they played Ohio State at home and they won by a point. I don't know that anybody came away from that game thinking both those teams stink. And then we saw them again play again in the Rose Bowl. This is a very similar situation with Indiana. It was a little bit lower scoring, and Oregon happened to lose. But I don't know what you would look at Oregon and say like they're deficient in a way that makes you think that they can't win a national title. They're good on both lines of scrimmage. They have an exciting young quarterback. Their like receivers are young and inexperienced, but that won't be so much of an issue by the time they get to the postseason. So they have everything they need. Like I don't think Oregon's going anywhere, even though they lost that game.
They were underappreciated in the preseason a little bit. Like they were in the 8 to 12 range in polls. And when you look at their two deep, I feel like every level on both sides of the ball has a playmaker or a certified dude. I was actually surprised that Indiana beat Oregon, not because I doubted that Indiana was very good, but I was pretty high on the balance of depth of playmaking NFL talent that's across the board at every position group on their team. So I think that's a testament to what Indiana accomplished, certainly. But I think that when you look at like the prototypical type of roster that you want to see from teams in this era competing and making runs in the championship, I think Oregon illustrates and checks all those boxes.
Yeah, I agree. They have Wisconsin this week. Then they're off, and then they finish with 4 Big Ten teams who currently only have 2 losses. And Bill, you and I were talking about this the other day, like this middle of the Big Ten. If somebody can jump up, it might take beating Oregon to jump up, but they are at Iowa, home Minnesota, home USC, at Washington. So again, like I think the middle of the Big Ten doesn't get respected the same way the middle of the SEC does, but those are some interesting games with if USC plays its best game, if Minnesota plays out of its mind, if Washington plays its best game. Who knows? But I think we all agree that Oregon's right there, absolutely on this list. Bill, who's your next team?
I'll put up Alabama, but I would cede the floor to Ari probably for it's the guy who probably knows more about Bama than we do. I will just say like in what I've watched of Alabama, I do feel like they have most of what they need. They remind me a little bit of Ohio State, and like they're not great at running the ball, but they can, I think, throw the ball with anybody. And I don't think the defense is spectacular, but I think it could be good enough. That's like sort of my overall viewpoint on them. But Ari knows them better than I do, and I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still a Northern boy, guys. Don't put me.
Yeah. But you watch them.
I watched every game they played this year. Yeah. They looked completely out of sync and out of sorts in their opener. And I don't know if that was just a case of, Florida State.
Terrible coaching. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it could have been terrible coaching. I mean, I think that Kalen DeBoer is susceptible to losing games that you wouldn't think that he could. And I think a lot of people have dismissed that as a possibility for the remainder of Alabama's schedule, but it would not shock me if it happened again. Like, I think you need to get through an entire season of that not happening before you can say that won't happen again. So that's the thing that scares me more than anything. But at the same time, if you go back and look at the last 4 games that they've won, and I know that there's some thought process that maybe they're fake good wins or whatever that the SEC insists upon itself, and I would be willing to listen to that. But they have beaten 4 ranked teams in a row, and they've looked pretty in control during those four wins. And Ty Simpson, I thought, was a question mark coming into the year. I think he's playing above the grade of which I would have thought he would. And they have a lot of talent. So, if Doug, you alluded to the fact that they might not be on your list. If they're not, I would love to hear your thought process on why.
They're not. I don't think they can win 3 or 4 straight games against high-level competition. I rewatched the Missouri game this morning in preparation for this. There were times when they could not block Missouri. Bo Prabula threw 2 picks in that game where he just threw it to Alabama late in the game. One was the game-ending play that they were trying to drive for a tying field goal. One was they were down 27-20, and he just had a miscommunication on the route and threw it straight to an Alabama safety. It's not Alabama guys making great plays. And then who is Missouri? Because I could run through Missouri's Jesse Palmer, and he's not allowed to lie because he's the host of The Bachelor, and that's like being a judge.
Yeah.
He cannot lie. He says during the broadcast, Missouri is kind of lucky that they beat Kansas and South Carolina because they had coverage busts in those games, and Lenora Sellers and Jalen Daniels missed throws that would have been touchdowns. And that's the team that took Bama to the wall in that game. And I didn't see anything that Bama did. There was a lot of stupid stuff there. Missouri tried a fake punt that didn't work and gave Bama a short field, right? I just Ty Simpson. There was the first play of the third quarter when it's go time for Bama. He gets sacked and he fumbles on the first play of the third quarter. I thought Bama made mistakes all over the field in the Missouri game and was lucky to escape. And then the other thing, and I know this is not the end all be all, but I went through the success rates, offense and defense, for all the teams that were under 100 to 1 to win the national title. There's 16. So I went through all those teams. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them that are ranked in the top 25 in success rate on both offense and defense. Bama in success rate, offensively, they're 31st. Defensively, they're 73rd. I do not think they are a down-to-down, do-your-job kind of team. And I think, frankly, they've been on the ropes in a couple SEC games that they managed to escape because nobody was good enough to jump up and get them. I think playing at Missouri and playing at Washington is very similar. And Ohio State went to Washington and just controlled the whole game. Bama went to Missouri and escaped by the skin of its teeth. I don't see any world where Bama can win 3 straight games against the best teams in the country, Ari.
I think that there's a fair criticism. The one thing that I would ask you is if you like went through every team with a fine-tooth comb like that, if you would be able to find things like that. Like I'm with you. It also was the 3rd game of a 3-game stretch against top 15 opponents, and the game was like on the road, and it kicked off, I believe, at 11 a.m. Like it was definitely like a trap spot game, and I don't know how much you buy into that, but like it wasn't the most advantageous circumstance to play a road game. And the thing that I will push back on a little bit here is that they beat Georgia, Vanderbilt, Missouri, and Tennessee. And knowing with a full heart that I agree with you that the SEC does insist upon itself, that is a pretty difficult 4-game stretch, in my opinion. And I think winning all of them is probably the closest thing to illustrating that you can win 4 in a row that anybody else has done in the sport. But the foot in the foot down that they cannot do it right now is what I would push back on. They wouldn't be the team I would pick to do it, but that they cannot do it with the players that they have, I think is one step further that I'd be willing to take.
Who's the best guy with the ball in his hands on that offense?
Ryan Williams.
Who's like 73rd in the nation in targets. I know he's been a little hurt.
Yeah.
I don't know. Bill, you're in though?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like you have stats to back up your thing, and like you can like EPA per play margin, they're 7th in the country. There's only like a handful of teams that are top 10 in both offense, defense, EPA per play, and Alabama's one of them. So like I think you can drive yourself crazy if you're coming at it from that angle. I just kind of think you have to watch them. And I know you have. So like if you watch them, it's like, you know what? I don't see it. That's fair. I don't think they're a juggernaut, but I don't know that there are many juggernauts out there this year. And I think like Alabama as a team, especially like with its potential offensive firepower that like could get hot and be pretty tough to beat.
And I don't know if it's just because I'm stupid. This might be the case. And I've never been good at math, but like I also think that there are so many stats at our disposal that like you can pick and choose which stats to use.
Sure.
It's like, and I don't want to give anything away. This team, I assume, Landis, that Missouri is not on your list.
Correct.
Okay, so Missouri was my team that was on the outs, like that I was like with the asterisks, right? I still can't say that word. And the reason why is because Mizzou is top 10 in both total offense and total defense, and has gotten to this point and pushed Bama to the end. Do I actually think they could win 4 games in a row? Probably not, which is why they're on the outs. But you're talking about Missouri as if it's like a bad team, and I think it's a pretty good team. So, you know, and I think Washington's a good team too. So if those are the comps, I think that Washington has been underranked all year. Although I would have liked to see them put up a better fight against Michigan last weekend. I don't know if like going on the road and winning a close game at Mizzou is like a black mark the way that you do.
I thought they had numerous moments in that game where the game was there for the taking. And I understand it's a road environment, but like you got to go win on the road sometimes. And that Missouri gave it to them. And I just thought there were key moments where they needed to do something and like they didn't do it, you know, and it came down like it's one of those things. Is it good or bad? They had a drive at the end. They had a touchdown drive. I think their go-ahead touchdown drive, they converted 2 4th downs on that, including on the touchdown, where Missouri blows the coverage on the touchdown. The guy's standing in the end zone by himself on the 4th down. And it's like, okay, I guess congratulations, Alabama, but also Missouri, maybe cover a guy who's standing in the end zone by himself on a do-or-die 4th down play. I just felt like that game was ragged and that there were like mistakes kind of handed to each other on both sides of the ball. And I did not come away from that game thinking either team was like, oh, man, I wouldn't want to play them. I was like, you'd play them. I'd line up against those guys, and I figured they'd make some mistakes. And I did not see Jam Miller's pretty good. Okay, Jam Miller's pretty good.
He's good, yeah.
I did not see – I didn't find Bama to be dangerous. They didn't scare me. I'm not saying they're terrible. I picked them to lose 4 straight weeks. So I probably respect them less than anybody in the country. But I do what I am firm on is I do not think they can run the gauntlet in the playoff. I would be flabbergasted.
I will say is that like now I might text Andy and just be like, Doug doesn't think that Alabama can win the night title. Can he come on and explain it? Just because that would be great for our show. But like the other part of this too is winning 3 games in a row. You're going to have to play really good teams, but in the 12-team era, you might have to play 2 flawed teams before you play in Ohio State. Like I'm looking at college football playoff brackets right now, and it's like the bottom half of some of the projections I see is USF, Vanderbilt, BYU, Georgia Tech, Miami, and Ole Miss. It's like they can't beat those teams.
Oh,
they
all Southern teams? No Big Ten, no Northern teams in the bottom half there. We're all just
throwing
it out with
it's actually Andy's bracket,
the SEC.
Just so you know.
Yeah, well, they're just jock.
But like I'm just saying, like all the teams that even if you were to replace, Vandy, is BYU in the South? Where are they?
No, BYU. It snows there.
Yeah.
Andy's brainwashed you.
No, I'm on your side. I'm not a geography guy. But like even the teams that you would like, I don't know, like Michigan, for instance, would probably be in the 12 to 15 range right now. It's like, do I think Alabama could beat Michigan? Like, or a team, if you wanted to swap the Southern for their Northern counterpart, I still think they could beat those teams too. So it would not be my pick. So like I see where you're coming from, and I actually believe that there's still an outside chance that they'll let us down. Because we've seen it for 2 years in a row now. And I don't think that you just like recover. Like, I mean, Marcus Freeman did it last year, but do you recover from something that is like sleepwalking or prone to losing to teams? Because like now with the context too, the one point that I'm surprised you didn't make is I don't care how out of sync you were, like Florida State stinks. Like that loss is getting worse and worse every week. But it is an interesting thought process, and I don't think you're nuts. But I think like drawing a line in the sand and saying they cannot do it is probably not something I would want to agree with right now.
All right. We'll speed it up. Ari, next team for you.
Okay. My next team I have is Miami.
Okay.
I was, of all the results this past year that I've been shocked by, Miami losing to Louisville is probably in the top 3, maybe number 1. Not more shocking than Florida State beating the crap out of Bama. But I thought Miami was different this year. And I don't know if it's, getting caught up in results of games, but I was at the Miami Florida State game, and, I was able to stand on the field for a large portion of the end of that game. Their front 7 on defense is really special, and they have one of the best offensive lines in the country. I have been on Team Doug with this, like the Carson Beck is not great train. I think you're probably a little bit more colorful in your description of that than I am. But I thought that they were going to win a lot of games by bullying people physically, and that Malachi Toney, that freshman receiver, all those different pieces that they have, in their backfield were just all going to be helped out a lot by dominating people in the trenches. And like seeing them get pushed around by Louisville, I did not see that coming. And I don't know if that was a one-off, if that was a weird Friday night game, if it was a spot. We talk about picking spots and picking teams. How much does spot matter in college football? I think it does, 20% of the, of the time. I still am not fully given up on Miami, although I was very disappointed to see what happened to them on Friday night. That wasn't what I anticipated.
Do you have them, Bill?
I do. 2 things give me pause. Carson Beck and is Mario Cristobal really going to coach well enough to get through 4 games of winning a national title?
I am assuming you watched the Louisville game, right?
Yeah. No, I did. Yeah.
Do you think that Mario did anything wrong in that game?
No.
Yeah.
No. But that just makes me think it's coming still, right? That's what happened.
That was the quarterback loss, right? 4 picks. That was the quarterback loss. The coach loss is coming down the pike.
Yeah, there was some weird a moment of weird clock management in that game, I guess. But no, that wasn't like a Mario game.
Yeah.
I, like you, was surprised that Louisville held up as well as they did on the line of scrimmage. But I still
And Louisville's good. They're pretty good. They're not
Louisville's
a bad team,
but
they got brommed, man. Sometimes you get brommed.
Yeah. I think there's a way if they can get it so where they don't have to put it on Carson Beck to win, and he's more of just like a point guard along for the ride kind of quarterback, and not the guy that has to go win you a game. I think they can do it, but I don't know that they're 100% capable of being that. But I did have them on my list because the talent on the offensive and defensive lines is pretty tough to ignore, and like the skill I still think is pretty good.
Yeah,
I actually think that Mario's done a really good job there. Like, I know everybody likes to pile on the guy. Miami's a completely different place now than it was when he took over. I think he's done a great job.
I think it's very similar to James Franklin thing. It's like you build a program, you establish something, you create your own standard, and then. But I do think like people question in game, right? And he's not going to escape that for a while. And people question James Franklin in game. And so we were talking about this on one of our other shows, Ari, that a year ago they were 10-1, 6-1 in the ACC. They go north to Syracuse in the last game of the regular season. If they win, they're in the ACC title game and probably in the playoff, and they lose to Syracuse. They're at Pitt on the last weekend of the regular season this year. And like I think they could be in the exact same spot. And are they going to choke?
Yeah.
They had Cam Ward last year and they choked.
I don't think they choked last year. Their defense was awful. I think it's a miracle they made it to 10 wins last year with that defense. Like, yeah, I mean, choking.
So you think they're substantially better this year, you think?
I think they're substantially better defensively. Obviously not offensively. Offensively, they had one of the best offenses of the last 10 years last year, and that's what got them through it. But I feel like I would much rather be a sure thing on defense and pretty good or to above average on offense than amazing on offense and awful on defense. Like, I would take this year's team over last year's team. I think if you would combine the two, they would win the national title, but you can't do that.
Okay. So I also have them as a title contender. So I'll now put up Notre Dame. And Notre Dame was my preseason national title pick. And I think they are going to get in. I think they'll win out and do what they have to do to get in. And, CJ Carr had that ridiculous interception against USC, but I think you can see him coming along as a young quarterback. It's been bumpier than, for instance, for Julian Sayin. But I think by the playoff, he will be ready to be a playmaking quarterback who can win you games. And I think they have a depth of talent on both sides of the ball. Jeremiah Love is as good as with the ball in his hands as anybody in the country. I think their receivers are probably better than you normally expect from Notre Dame. And I think they're figuring out a little bit the Chris Ash defensive plan and improving. And I don't know if they'll be great, but I just think they have talent there. And, they were right there with two really good teams. It doesn't excuse those losses, but I think Notre Dame at its best, I could see them making that playoff run. So are they on your list, Ari?
Yes, they are on my list. Although I will give you a bonus. I'll bring some of the things that I get flack on from my channel to yours to generate some buzz. I don't think that they are a lock to get in the playoff, dude. Like, I think that, like, if they go 10-2, they probably will get in. But, like, I think they need some help. I think there's this notion in South Bend and the surrounding areas that Notre Dame controls its own destiny, and I don't think it does, especially with the way that the season is shaping up. Like, if you go look at the ACC standings, like, Miami controls its own destiny for the playoff, but not its own conference title. You're going to have a lot of teams that are really good, like Oregon, for instance, maybe in the Big Ten, that are going to be gobbling up spots on the outside. And I think that, like, they might start getting compared to 3-loss SEC teams. And you might think Notre Dame's better, but they will not have beaten nobody.
They really need Georgia. They really need Georgia to beat Georgia Tech and to Miami to beat Georgia Tech in the ACC title game.
Yeah. Like, I think they need help. Or I don't know. They can't go wrong.
Their losses are so good. They might wind up. It could be that there are 2 losses to the SEC champ and the ACC champ, and then so now we're back into like good loss, good win, bad win. But USC has a chance to be pretty good. Boise State has a chance to win the Mountain West. Like I think that Pitt's pretty good, right? Like they're going to play Pitt's 5-2 right now and has looked pretty good. I think their wins will stack up, and I do think like the better that Texas A&M and Miami look, and the better they finish. If you're 10-2,
but what if they're not the champs? Well, they're not the champs. Then that's 2 spots you can't get.
Yeah, like the Texas A&M and Miami
you're losing head to head. Yeah,
I bet you from a Vegas standpoint, Texas A&M and Miami are probably more likely to not win their conference than to win it in the current moment. Now, Texas A&M controls its own destiny in the SEC and has a pretty advantageous path, so I think they'll get to Atlanta.
I bet you that's not true. Who do you think is going to win the ACC?
I don't think that Miami is going to make it to the ACC title game. I think they're kind of blocked out. If you go look at the schedules, all the best teams in the ACC don't even play each other. Now, if you think Georgia Tech is just going to lose a random game or Virginia is or whatever, they lost. If you go look at the standings, I think they're like 4th or 5th right now in the standings, and the top 3 teams in the standings don't even play each other. So they need teams to lose random games, which is college football and might happen. But A&M, let's just say A&M and Miami don't play or don't win their conferences, and those two are at larges at the end, they automatically block Notre Dame out. And then you have other teams that are in the mix. And like your disaster scenario, Doug, I'll paint a nice picture for you. You know, Alabama is who you say they are, and they lose twice more this year. Alabama at 9-3 at the end of the year with a win over Georgia being compared directly to Notre Dame. You think Notre Dame's going to win that battle?
Yes, because Georgia's mid too. Why is Georgia
but
so
you're
good?
not. But you're not in the room.
You're not in the committee.
You're not making the decision.
I'm asking you what you think is going to happen, not what you think should happen.
No, but it's also one of those things like we're talking about. Like, well, Georgia's going to lose to Georgia Tech. So, like, that's one of those, like, we'll have to see by the time we get to the last weekend of the regular season, who does Notre Dame went to win the Georgia Tech game? Like, I don't know. But
I'm just telling you right now, and you know this as well as anybody, nobody gives a crap if Notre Dame beats Pitt. That does nothing to move the needle.
But like that on its face is a ridiculous thing to say, because what if Pitt's like 9-2?
And they might be. Now, if Pitt is a top 15 team and is 9-2, then they will.
Why does anybody give a crap if somebody beats Vanderbilt or Missouri or South Carolina or LSU or Ole Miss? Why does anyone give a crap about that? Or Tennessee? Why are those wins good? We can play the mid game right now.
We're on the same team. I'm just know how this works, and you do too. Like, where do you think 10-2 or 9-3 Vanderbilt will be ranked at the end of the year in comparison to a 10-2 Pitt team? Like, they will be ranked ahead of them.
I can hear the committee chairman saying we respected Notre Dame's win against 9-win Pitt. I can hear them saying that.
Yeah,
I don't think the committee is as beholden to the narratives as the college football punditry is. So
yeah, but the question will be a one-loss SEC or a SEC loss or team that has one extra loss than Notre Dame being directly compared to Notre Dame. If Notre Dame's best selling point is we lost to really good teams and not who they beat, my understanding of how it works is always they will err towards who you beat before who you lost to.
But they also change their mind from year to year. And also, I would not be surprised if it comes up in the committee room that Texas A&M blatantly held on the touchdown pass to beat Notre Dame, and the refs didn't see it because they were looking the wrong way. So, like, that's the kind of thing that can come up, because both those games are down to the wire, right? Miami's a 3-point loss on the road. Texas A&M is down to the wire in the last play of the game at home on a blatant missed call that everybody in America agrees was a missed call.
So you think they're a lock at 10-2?
I mean, the context of everything matters. If we wind up in a situation where there's a bunch of one-loss teams, I would not call it a lock. I am not at all nervous about putting Notre Dame here as a team that can win it all. I did not make this pick thinking like, oh, if they get in, I really believe they'll get in. I really believe they'll get in because, as you said, crazy stuff always happens, and I do think they'll win out.
Yeah, I think they're going to win out. I think they will win out, and I think they're very good. And I think people don't respect how good they are because they have 2 losses. So I'm with you on 95% of what you're saying. And I think they will get in too. If I had to guess, they will get in. I just would not be shocked or floored if we get to the end of the year and you have, multiple, like, what if Texas Tech is a 1-loss team? I don't know. Like, you can start going through your mind at scenarios, but yeah.
No, we were talking about that. Like,
they were on your list, though.
Mid Steelers.
Notre Dame is on my list. Yes.
Yeah.
It's on your list, Bill, or no?
They are on my list. Yeah. And the one thing that hasn't been said, assuming they get there, like, I think it matters that they've gone through it, right? The staff has the institutional knowledge of what it is to navigate the playoff, which I think matters. Yeah.
By the way, ACC title odds right now as we sit: Georgia Tech plus 230, Miami plus 260, Virginia plus 440. Yeah. So, all right. So that's 6. Bill, who's next for you?
I'll throw up A&M.
Okay. I also have them in. Ari, do you have them in?
I do.
Team that could do it. Okay. We don't have to spend a ton of time on this. Is there anything that, like, in particular you like about Texas A&M, Bill?
I just think like Mike Elko is a good coach, and I actually think he's like, you want to talk about like navigating like the gauntlet. He seems to me to have a good way of helping his team like navigate like in-game swings, right? Like some of these games they played have been pretty close, but they don't really seem to like crumble when those pressure moments arise, which I think is a good quality to have if you're trying to get through it. Like talent-wise, I think they certainly have what it needs to get there. I don't know. I've gone back and forth on whether or not I think they're actually going to win the SEC, but I think their schedule probably sets up to get them to Atlanta pretty well, like maybe better than most other teams in the SEC.
It does really well, depending on what you think of Texas. And I think that
right.
my antennas went up when you said there's a team that you're not sure is going to make it, but could. I wonder if that's the team I think it is. But if it is, I'm going to lose my mind. But that team's on Texas A&M's schedule at the end of the year.
Oh no, it's not.
Okay.
It's not an SEC team.
Okay. So I think I'm in agreement on this. Can I just say one thing I forgot to say about Notre Dame? This, I think, is one of my. I have not made this argument yet. The SEC is mid argument. I think it's one of the most compelling cases. Notre Dame beat Arkansas by 43. Ole Miss beat Arkansas by 6. Memphis beat Arkansas by 1. Tennessee beat Arkansas by 3, and Texas A&M beat Arkansas by 3.
Well, that doesn't account for the Bobby Petrino magic, buddy.
so like Arkansas is like an example of it's like, oh, it's like the NFL. It's like it is like the SEC. It's a gauntlet, and like all these middle of the pack SEC teams that are ranked and are supposed to be good are scraping by Arkansas, and Notre Dame blew their doors off to the extent that they fired their coach the next day. So
I actually felt bad for Arkansas during the game. I was like, they need to stop this. This is like obscene.
Did you feel bad for Arkansas when they almost beat Texas A&M or when they almost beat Tennessee? Did you feel bad for them then? So
the reason why A&M is on my list, though, is because exactly what Bill said of like in the past, like battered Aggie syndrome will tell you. I'm married to one. Like they don't beat Notre Dame. Did he hold the guy? Did he not hold the guy? I don't know, Doug. I wasn't there, but like I do know that like they won the game. Like A&M, the way they won the game at Notre Dame almost felt like a hex was being removed from the program, because that is like the bona fide way that A&M lost games over the years over and over again. Like it almost felt like they finally got one to fall their way. And like they're winning a bunch of close games. They don't play anybody elite. I think they will make it to Atlanta. Could they beat? They don't play Alabama or Georgia in the regular season, which I think is kind of a drag. So they might end up playing one of them in Atlanta. But it is an interesting dynamic of like, do you think they could beat Oregon, Ohio State, Georgia, and someone else in a row? Like, I don't know. But I think that being undefeated and beating Notre Dame gives you the right to not be dismissed that you could.
I agree.
Yeah.
So that's 7 teams, and I'm out on my 6. My 6 have all been said. Ari, give us another team.
Okay. So has anyone said Georgia yet? Are we out on Georgia?
I have Georgia on my list.
Yeah.
All right. Ari, talk to us about Georgia, Ari.
So I actually am with you, and I was driving back somewhere very late at night during the off season. I was listening to your guys' show, and I listened to you guys. I think you had a similar topic on your show about like that we have right now about like who do you think could win it or who's like a lot. And like Bill, didn't you say that you thought Georgia was a lock to make the playoff even at like potentially 9-3? Like just because like you got no, the episode premise was locks to make the playoff. And you said Georgia, and Doug got mad and you said that they still have Georgia like aura, and like I agreed with you. And I actually thought that Georgia was more aura than substance. And I still kind of feel like they're a flawed team in the sense that like when I watch them play, I don't get the same feeling that I got 3 years ago when they were actually elite. But I've been watching them the last few weeks, and I've actually faded them on the show, the last 3 weeks. And I thought they've looked highly functional, like more functional than I would have thought. Now their pass rush efficiency is pretty bad, which is not something that you would expect from a team that usually is just terrorizing the quarterback the entire game, which could come back to haunt them. But I think Gunnar Stockton is playing high-level football in a way that I didn't think that he could. I actually think that you made the case that he was an upgrade from Carson Beck in terms of what he gives you. He's made big throws in big moments in games they certainly could have lost. That throw he made at the end of Tennessee game, I thought was an incredible play.
Ridiculous.
I thought it was great. So
it was great.
I don't know. I would not pick them to win, but I think that given who their coach is, given the way that they have been typically, built, the way they are built this year, still a top 10, top 7 team. Top 5 team in total talent. I'm not willing to dismiss them as can't do it right now. I wouldn't pick them. I feel like that with Georgia and with Alabama the same way. Like I wouldn't pick them to do it, but I would not dismiss them right now.
Yeah. I think it's hard for me to shake the talent thing too. And maybe that's probably not the best way to analyze this. There is something about Gunnar Stockton in big moments that I think like would become pretty valuable if they got to that point. I do think they're going to get to the playoff. It is odd to watch a Georgia defense. It's not that good though. Like they can't get after the passer. Like you can move the ball on them. It is, if they were to do it, like it would be by flipping their identity from what they were, especially in their first national championship season. But I think there's a baseline of talent there that is probably good enough with like the right kind of bracket makeup that they could do it. But yeah, they wouldn't be my first pick to go win a national title, or they probably wouldn't be my second, third, fourth, or fifth pick either. But I did have them on my list.
I think they should have 3 losses. They were lucky to beat Tennessee. Miracle throw on 4th down. They get the 2-point conversion. Tennessee misses the field goal at the end of regulation. All they need to do is kick a 43-yard field goal, and Tennessee beats Georgia. So that should be their second loss because they did lose to Bama. The Auburn thing, Jackson Arnold scored. It should have been 17-0 Auburn. Does anybody in America think he didn't score?
I don't
and then
think so.
They come back and beat Auburn 20-10. They took a touchdown off the board for Auburn. It's unbelievable. I have no idea.
17 yards of offense the entire second half.
It sucked the life out of them. So I think they should have lost to Auburn. And then they were trailing Ole Miss by 9 entering the fourth quarter, and then went on 2 long drives, and Lane Kiffin Ole Miss team that's a fraud crapped the bed. So, like, what does that mean? They had a miracle win against Tennessee. They got a touchdown ripped off the board for Auburn against them, and then Ole Miss collapsed. Gunnar Stockton is making plays in crunch time. They're also in crunch time all the time. Their back has been against the wall all year against teams that I don't think are that good. So I see a team that I legitimately think should be 3-3, and I cannot fathom them doing what they need to do in the playoff. And now you could point back and say, well, they won the 4 in a row. It's like, yeah. And I think they should be 1-3 in those games, and they're not. So that's just like, but it's one of those things. Do you give credit? I mean, of course, Gunnar Stockton should get some credit for that. But also, they're like, at some point, they're not going to make the play, and then they're going to take a loss. So,
the Auburn game reminds me of the 19 Fiesta Bowl a little bit, or the off the 19 Ohio State team of like, was it targeting? Was it a fumble? Like, how much can one bad call deflate you? And I think that Auburn was completely deflated. There's no question about it. Do you assign 0 credit for a defense shutting an offense to like less than 25 yards in an entire half? Like, I think that like there are 2 ways of looking at these things.
But Auburn stinks also.
Auburn does stink. Their offense stinks, certainly. But I assign credit in game like the Tennessee game. There's probably no credit to assign. They got lucky. They won, period. There was a kick that could have gone in. You lose. There's no fight left in that. But I assign credit for the wins that they got against Ole Miss and Auburn for what they did. Now, inherently flawed team. If you think they're number 1 or you're an SEC person that has them in your top 3 right now, you're not looking at it clearly. I wouldn't rank them that high. But, also I listen to your guys' show all the time. So like I kind of have a general idea of like what Doug thinks of Kirby Smart. Like, what is your actual opinion of Kirby Smart? Do you think he's the best coach in college football, or do you think he's a fraud?
No, I think he's a good coach who can't control his players off the field. So, like, I think, getting his team ready to win a football game, he's really good.
Yeah.
So, I've thought that since the Ohio State-Georgia semifinal, I thought he had complete control of that program on the football field, and actually was sort of like, man, Ryan Day could kind of learn some things from this guy, because this guy's got his arms around everything. And so I think that continues to be the case. I find it interesting that they've just been they've been like Stetson Bennett is such a savior for that program, but like their whole quarterback thing's been kind of in a weird spot for like 6 years, and they've kind of overcome it or found the guy. They tried not to start Stetson Bennett. He was a 3rd string guy, and he forced them to play him. And then like Carson Beck blows up, has to leave like in shame, and Gunnar Stockton, I still don't know exactly what Gunnar Stockton is, but it feels like at the end of a game he's running around throwing like he's making
Eli
plays
Manning.
to win a game. So, but is that good?
Eli Manning mobile?
Is he good?
No, just like this guy stinks unless he's in the Super Bowl kind of thing.
Yes. I agree with that. So like, but there's nothing there. As Bill, you were saying, like, I just don't know what there is to grab onto, because usually with Georgia at its best, it's like, well, bet on the defense, bet on Stetson Bennett finding a way. I'm not there with anything about Georgia.
During the height of the Alabama run, they had better players than everybody they were playing. So maybe but like there was this cop out of like, yeah, well, Nick Saban's on the sideline. Like anytime they were playing in a big game, well, yeah, Nick Saban's on the sideline. Does Georgia absorb any credit or deserve any credit for, Kirby Smart's on the sideline?
I think there's some of that. I give him some of that. Yeah.
I think there's some. I mean, he called a timeout that they said wasn't a timeout because he's Kirby Smart.
He's clapping.
He's clapping. So I mean, it's like
You don't clap like this.
yeah. So they're just like the SEC is like in the tank for their teams to let them survive. I mean, they stole 2 wins from Auburn this year in the Oklahoma game and the Georgia game, and that benefits the SEC. So like if this was happening in another conference, it's all Paul Feinbaum would talk about. The scandal in the Big Ten about they're screwing their teams to keep the top teams afloat, and they've absolutely boned Auburn twice.
I can't tell you how bad I feel for Hugh Freeze.
Check his phone, man. Check his phone. Bill.
Was I serious about that or was I joking? You decide.
Yeah. Bill, do you have any more playoff teams that can win the national title on your list?
I had 2 more. One was with the asterisk, but I'll give you the one that didn't have the asterisk with Texas Tech.
Okay. All right. Do you have them?
I do.
Okay.
Defense is nasty.
I probably should have them, but I just am still a little bit of like this Frankenstein's monster of assembled pieces. Like, is it really going to get all the way through? And I know they lost with their backup quarterback, so Baron Morton will be back in, and they'll be okay.
So but is that a thing? Because Will Hammond looked awesome earlier in the season when he played. Like, are we pinning the ASU game on their backup quarterback playing?
I'm sure the committee will.
Yeah.
I mean,
the ball 37 times for 167 yards. So
yeah,
the committee's going to give him an out on that if it comes down to an iffy situation. I'm sure they will. But like Bill, you do think their defense is pretty darn good, right?
I think their defense is legit. And it's not I think I said this at the time. There are a few things you can do in college football that'll be more impressive to me than going to Utah and just completely owning them at the line of scrimmage, the way that Texas Tech did in that game. And I don't know. Romello Height and David Bailey, like I don't know if there's a better defensive end tandem in college football. Maybe Miami, but that probably be the only one. Those guys are crazy. So
their pressure numbers are through the roof.
They just hit like whatever they bought a roster and they bought good players. Like I don't know.
Yeah,
it work for them.
I thought that they were going to get. So I have this on my desk. A listener sent this to us because we always joke that every Vegas line in the Big 12 is 3.5 points, no matter who's playing. And that was like dating back to the Texas Oklahoma days. And he like minted us this coin that says 3.5 on one side, and it's got the Big 12 on the other with all the team names.
Oh, nice.
And it was like a cool gift. And I thought that Texas Tech was going to throw a wrench in that whole thought process of like, it doesn't matter who they play in the Big 12. They're just going to beat the crap out of them. And then they played Arizona State and lost on Saturday. And I have pause about it. Like Texas Tech would have been higher maybe on my list, if we did this last Wednesday, but I respect the talent level. They have talent level on their team that you won't find anywhere else in the Big 12. And I don't know if their total talent would stack up with a team like Ohio State. Certainly wouldn't. I don't know if their total talent would even stack up with an Alabama or an Ole Miss, but I think they're going to get there. And if they're playing well and their defense is nasty, they have a shot.
I can't tell if the PFF person for Texas Tech is just a pushover because Texas Tech, according to pressures by PFF, has number 1, number 2, and 4 in the Power 4. And David Bailey has 49 pressures, Bill, and that's 13 more than anybody else. And second is his teammate, Romello Height. So is that legit that they legitimately have 3 people in the top 4 pressures in the country? Or is the thumb on the scale on the PFF person there?
Who's to say? Maybe they bought PFF too.
I mean, I will say that when you watch Texas Tech play, you feel their pressure.
Yeah.
So
okay,
well,
good for Texas Tech. They're good. They're good. You can't deny they're good.
And I've got one more
on my list. Who's your last one, Ari?
Oh, Landis, did you have one more, or am I the last one? I have one.
I have an asterisk team that I think could do it if they got in, but I'm not sure they're going to.
Okay, my last one's going to make Doug mad, and I kind of want to just go now. I don't even want to do this. Is Ole Miss worth talking about?
So is
Washington?
Washington
Are
State?
they playing Washington State in the
playoff?
It's like, why do you think Ole Miss is good? What makes you think that Ole
They
Miss
scored 5 times in a row against Georgia's defense, and I know, and this might be me falling into the trap of SEC. Like I'm like actually ashamed of myself right now. You're making me feel. But
they are a defensive success rate. By the thing I was citing, so offensive success rate, they're 15th. Off defensive success rate, they're 108.
Yeah, their defense stinks. Yeah, you know what? I actually think I'm not being bullied. But as we were talking about this, I was thinking about my list. I'll take Ole Miss off.
Oh, it's a victory.
I mean, it's like I put it there because they were undefeated going into last week, and I thought they played a really fun, entertaining game against Georgia. And I look at the rest of their schedule: they're Oklahoma, South Carolina, Citadel, Florida, and Mississippi State. They're underdogs, funny enough, against Oklahoma this week, and I think they're probably going to lose, which should have been my first reason to not put them on. I picked Oklahoma to cover the spread this week, but I feel like they're kind of a lock to get to the playoff at this point. I think they've got the fourth best odds to make the playoff. And I think Lane Kiffin can draw up some offensive plays and maybe they can make some noise. But 4 in a row, I'm going to change my mind. I don't know if they could win 4 in a row with that defense.
Yeah.
1-score win over Kentucky, 1-score win over Arkansas. All right. So we're actually taking Ole Miss off the list. We're dropping Ari back to 9. Landis, who's your asterisk team?
USC.
Ooh. Speak it.
I think they might have the best offense in the country. And like some of the underlying numbers would support it. And like if they're 10-2, because that 10-2 would include a win over Oregon, and it's a 2-point loss to Illinois on the road and a loss to Notre Dame on the road, like in the rain. The idea of that offense in a playoff setting in like sterile conditions with extra time to prepare, I wouldn't want to have to go against them. Also, Jane and Miami throws crazy picks sometimes.
Similar to the Ole Miss argument, right? I mean, it's like but
their defense is better than Ole Miss's defense.
High level offense, high level play caller. Take your shot. And if they beat Oregon, so the only way they can do this is if they win out, and that includes a win over Oregon. It's what we talked about, Bill. I think they would be in. Now, again, we're talking about roadblocks. Miami and Texas A&M are roadblocks for Notre Dame. Notre Dame's a roadblock for USC. If USC and Notre Dame are both 10-2, trying to go, of course, it's like but that's a pretty. Illinois kicked a field goal in the last play of the game for that loss, right? Yeah. And like beating Oregon would carry a lot of weight. So I do think
USC like slept walked its game itself like for the first 3 quarters.
Here's the national narrative, as you guys is that they play teams that are physically tough and they kind of wilt in those games.
They kicked the crap out of Michigan.
They really did.
That changed the Michigan when they beat Michigan. That changed it a little bit.
It was cursed for the first time on our show.
But like, I never felt like they were going to beat Notre Dame at any point in the game on Saturday.
Mm-hmm. It's because Notre Dame's
good. But I think Notre Dame's good, and I think the one thing is like Miami threw a weird pick against Michigan. Didn't really matter, I guess. He threw 2 picks against Notre Dame. Like he has it in him, but like when he's good, that offense is awesome.
Yeah, there was that one play that he did a little eye fake with the high safety in the Notre Dame game. I saw that clip on Twitter the other day and threw that dime to Jacoby Lane. That was a pretty sick play. But yeah,
the thing I don't know about USC is if I know they're down a couple of running backs. Like, is it possible they get healthier there? Because they're really balanced too. They run the ball really well and throw it well, and they're explosive. And like, I don't think their defense is great, but I think it's solid. I don't know. I think if they got there, I think they'd be like kind of a tough out, which is, I don't know, that's maybe like lame analysis, but I don't think they'll get there. But that Oregon USC game could be a bit of a banger when it happens in a couple weeks.
Oregon's schedule really matters down the stretch, but yeah, they hold. Oregon USC could really matter. Oregon Washington could really matter in the end. So you're not going all the way, Landis. This is an asterisk. It's not actually on your list.
Correct. Yeah.
Ari and Bill, 9 teams each, same 9. I had 6, and there were 3 that I didn't have. So we all say, who do we think can win the national title in 2025 college football season? The ones we agree on. All of us say Ohio State. All of us say Indiana. All of us say Oregon. All of us say Miami. All of us say Notre Dame. All of us say Texas A&M. Bill and Ari also say Alabama, Georgia, and Texas Tech. And I will just say, from a betting standpoint, which is certainly not the end-all, be-all, Ohio State's the favorite at plus 260, Bama plus 650, Indiana plus 800, Oregon plus 950, Texas A&M and Notre Dame 1,100, Georgia 1,200, Miami 17-1, Texas 18-1, Ole Miss 22-1, Oklahoma 28-1, Texas Tech 30-1, Vanderbilt 40-1, Missouri 45-1, Tennessee 60-1. Everybody else 100-1 or more. I thought when you guys, Ari, did anyone think about Texas?
No.
I mean, it dawned on me because I'm mentally ill, but no.
Okay.
Yeah.
If they would have like handled Kentucky, I probably would have had them on my list.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
they didn't.
Their offensive line is really bad.
Awful.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can't fix that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's it for our who can win the national title discussion here on the Bill and Doug Show, which means it's time for the good stuff. What you watching? What you eating? What you thinking? We're glad to have Ari here to talk about life with us. Ari Wasserman, what are you watching?
Have you thought about putting this at the front of the show, or
No, because everybody would turn off the football then at the end. Like people hang in for this, man.
Yeah. 2 shows, and I actually think I loved Task on HBO. I think that HBO in general is like the high quality pizza joint, and Netflix is Domino's. Now Netflix, Domino's hits. I like Domino's, but when you hit it right on HBO, man, there's nothing like it. If you watched Mayor of Easttown, Task is very similar, same geographical area, Delaware County, Pennsylvania. I thought it was an incredible show, and I just finished it on Sunday with my wife. We watched it every Sunday, and I thought the finale was good, which is really hard to do in miniseries as well. So, and Mark Ruffalo is an absolute dog of an actor. I thought that did you guys watch it?
Yes.
I haven't watched it yet. I was waiting for it to be finished so I can sit down and do it all. And
kind of bi-week binge.
Yeah. It's really good. And the other one I'm watching is Black Rabbit because it has Jason Bateman. And if I think I remember correctly, you love Jason Bateman, don't you, Doug?
I do. I'm a Silver Spoons guy.
He likes Teen Wolf too.
We're not through it yet. We're just on episode 3. But
what is this? What? Now, I haven't heard of Black Rabbit.
Black Rabbit is on Netflix, and it's about a guy who opened up a restaurant with his brother. His brother becomes disenchanted for whatever reason. Then the brother comes back into the picture. The restaurant, it's a swanky place in New York City. And it turns out the brother is a complete disaster. And the brother is Jason Bateman. Jason Bateman is peak Jason Bateman. And they're not giving too much away, but he has a gambling problem and it gets out of control. No, it's excellent.
Yeah.
What?
I heard him talk about it, and he was like very excited to play. Like you would assume he'd be like the straight-laced one, and he's not.
No, he's the misfit in this one, but he also still speaks like Jason Bateman. All right, like listen, like how he does that. It's really, really we're not through it. I don't know if the ending's good because I haven't gotten that far, but it's a tremendous show so far. I'm enjoying it.
You watch that thinking there, but for the grace of God, go I. Like a show about a guy whose gambling problem destroys his life.
I legitimately can understand how that happens to people.
Yeah. There's alternate universe, Ari. Instead of this beautiful family and a nice house and a wonderful career, you're somewhere with your knees nailed to the floor.
I have a governor. Like if I lose a certain amount or I get to a place where I'm in a bad swing of it, I can stop.
Yes.
So that's the important thing. Like if you don't have the governor, you should not participate in the activity because I find it intoxicating. And like it's so funny how life works for people because like I have struggled with governors in other areas of my life. I could have a 6-pack of beer in the fridge and walk by it every day for a month and never look at it. Large pizza in the fridge, it's not going to make it to the morning. Like there's certain things. And gambling, I enjoy very much, but I know how to control myself, thankfully, because there is an alternate universe that's like right next door that my life is ruined over it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. It'd be so funny if your life is ruined. Man, that got serious for a second there. Bill, what are you watching?
As we discussed before, I'm bad at watching shows, so I have no new show to talk about, but I have been watching this thing on TikTok. There's this guy, his name is Omar Nok, N-O-K, and he had previously done a thing where he went from Egypt to Japan without flying and documented the whole thing on TikTok, and now he is doing a different thing where he is starting in Egypt and going around the entire world and ending up back in Egypt without flying, and he started it 2 weeks ago. And he's only in Libya, which is the country that's right next to Egypt.
Is he riding his bike? What's he doing?
He's like at the mercy of the people that he encounters. So like he'll get rides from people here and there. I think he'll take a train. Obviously, at some point he's gonna have to get on a boat, but he's not there yet. But he like left Cairo and got to is it Tripoli in Libya? Is
Yeah.
that right? And I guess there's like unrest in Libya, so like there's the eastern side and the western side, and he got stamped in on the eastern side, and then he got to the western side, and they didn't recognize his stamp, so then he was like entering the country illegally, and like it was like if you follow like his TikToks, it was like day 8, I'm in Libya, and then nothing for almost 2 weeks, and it's like day 17, finally leaving Libya.
Oh my God.
So like his entire things got thrown off track, but the things that people do for social media fame, but also I'm just like super interested in like once he gets to like when he with the point where he has to get on a boat, right? I'm just super fascinated by what he's going to do to get himself from the western coast of Africa to presumably somewhere in South America. But yeah, it's taken him 2 weeks to get from Egypt to Libya, which probably doesn't seem like a great start.
And he's documenting it on social media.
All on TikTok. Well, he might be on other social medias, but I follow it on TikTok. Yeah. So like this particular journey, he's like 6 whatever TikTok videos into it, and they're not long. They're like 90 seconds. But
Okay.
over time, he will, in theory, find himself circumnavigating the globe without flying.
Okay. You might like this. I read this book. It's from 2008, and it's 2 guys who are TV writers, but they decided to race each other around the world, not using airplanes.
Yeah.
And then they wrote a book about their journey. It's called The Ridiculous Race. So it's kind of the same
I
thing.
would
it's
read
like
that.
trying to go
that.
around the world without using. So do you guys, did I already talk about The Chair Company, Bill? I don't think I did.
No,
The
you haven't.
New Tim Robinson HBO show. So
Yeah.
it's set in Central Ohio. Do you guys know that? It's like this new Tim Robinson comedy on HBO. And in the first episode, it talks about like he has a kid in high school and they're playing Upper Arlington and Dublin Jerome. And it's like, what? But then he's building a mall, but the mall's in Canton. So like the Columbus Dispatch has already done a story about this. I think other people have. And it was like, is this show in Central Ohio or not? Because you're dropping Columbus area high schools, but the mall's in Canton. And HBO was like, yeah, no, it's not in Columbus. And they were like, no, yeah, it is in Columbus. And it's like, okay, you guys just don't know what the heck you're talking about. But it's also one of the things, and I've talked about Tim Robinson on this show before. I don't like wherever you guys are with Tim Robinson, his whole thing again in this is like he works at a chair company in a Columbus suburb, and he's just like, I live in the suburbs. Let's go get a taco. And it's just like, I can't with this guy. Like, I don't understand what this appeal is. And I get it. There's different strokes for different folks. But the whole thing is like, I think he's making it I could work in and out. Like, I think he's making fun of my life. Like he's some Hollywood guy who's like, hey, lame Central Ohio suburban guys. Look at me. I wear a quarter zip to work. And it's like, it's just life, man. Why do I have to be a jerk about it? Ari, you love Tim Robinson, right? No? Yes? You love him.
I think that he has moments in all of his shows that he's hilarious, but for whatever reason, his content overall does not hit for me.
Yeah.
Like I watched Detroiters, and like there were certain things in Detroiters that I thought were hilarious, but like the actual show I think stinks. Does that make sense? What was that movie that he just did with
Friendship?
Yeah, I watched that movie and I thought it was like there were times where this guy is hilarious, but I didn't like the movie. Does that make sense? I don't even know.
I thought there was a good 4-minute sketch in that movie, but I didn't think it needed to be a movie.
Yeah.
Tim Robinson's biggest problem is that Vine doesn't exist anymore, right?
Yeah.
If he was just doing everything in 2-minute chunks, he'd be great. But you don't need 10 minutes of Tim Robinson.
Like that same, I didn't realize, because it's like another thing of his that it's the same affectation, and it's just like, oh man, this is like you guys are saying, this is for 90 seconds at a time. This is not for a show. But now I just have to watch it to see what other Central Ohio references he drops into it.
Yeah,
so it's only.
But it does make it interesting that he didn't last on SNL. Like it feels like everything he does will be built for that show. And now actually SNL does a bunch of stuff. It's like, well, that's a Tim Robinson sketch. He's not on the show anymore, but that's a Tim Robinson sketch.
Yeah.
But for some reason, he didn't work out there.
Anyway, all right, Ari, what are you eating?
I just want to say that I am completely like prejudiced against other cultures' food. I found out yesterday.
Thank God there was a food in there.
No, like, and not all their food, their carbs. Like, I am such a snob when it comes to bun, potato, American food. carbs
Really?
that I have a hard time catching on with other people's carbs. That said, I had a conversation about this with Bill the other day, and I went and got Chinese food. Fried rice is by far the best carb that's not American food on the planet.
That's not true.
What's wrong?
Have you had naan?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty fire. But that's like bread. That's fried bread. I put that in the American side. Like, that's fried bread.
Tell that to people from India.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that pork fried rice is the best side / appetizer / carb that you can find in all of foreign cuisine. And it kind of hit me the other day.
Wow. Like stand up. You're a stand for fried rice. Okay.
It's so good. And I'm not even a rice person, but it is so good.
Fried rice is so good.
Because like I get into trouble about my opinions on Mexican food. I think Mexican food is all the same everywhere, no matter where you go. Expensive restaurant, cheap restaurant. And then I found out that I don't love Mexican food because their carbs stink. Like the best thing that you can get is a tortilla that tastes the same everywhere. Now, they're great tortillas. I've had some that stand above but 99% of restaurants, the tortillas are similar. Mexican rice and refried beans don't hit it the way that French fries and buns do for me. So I think that's part of the reason why I have that opinion. And then I had fried rice the other night and it hit me like, this is it right here. Like this is it. So I get kind of offensive there, and I don't have like a specific thing, but like I just wanted to shout out to your local Asian restaurant for making a great carb that isn't an American. Like naan isn't even a common thing, dude. Like where do I even go to get naan? I don't even know where I would get that.
I don't know. They're like 6 billion people in India, and they own
Yeah.
naan.
I know, but when I live in Dallas. That's like
There's
that's
no
that bothers
good
me more
Indian
than anything.
restaurants?
Like Dan, I
Dallas?
told you, Dan Rubenstein called me and goes, I heard your Mexican food take. It's awful. Have you ever eaten legit Mexican food in Mexico City? I'm like, that doesn't have any bearing on my opinion. I'm not in Mexico City. I might go there one time in my life for a wedding or something and eat their great food. I'm not saying that there's no good food in the world. I'm saying as it pertains to my general existence and where I eat, which is in American restaurants, they don't serve dynamic, diverse food the way
I would get it if somebody in Ohio was like, I don't know about the Mexican food here, but you're in Texas. I'm surprised.
And that's why people get mad, because I think that it bears weight in Texas. I think that's all the same. I think if you go to Chewy's or you go to the Papacitos here, it's the same thing.
Okay. So you are not down with OPC.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah,
Other people's cuisine.
Other people's carbs.
Other people's carbs. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like our carb, and like you were like naan. It's like, okay, well, the best version of an American bun, sure.
I don't think you know what naan is.
Isn't it like fried, like flat bread, Indian bread?
Flat bread. Yeah, it's like
yeah. I know what it is.
Because I almost think the opposite of that. Like carbs are what brings us together. Because like every culture has like meat and bread, right? And it's like, give me your style of meat and bread, and then like we're just all brothers and sisters together. Interesting. I feel like we should just sit down sometime in person, the three of us, and just eat like 10 different kinds of meat and bread from 10 different cuisines.
And the last thing I want to say, and for the sake of this show not being 9 hours, I saw somebody did a Talladega Nights Thanksgiving, and I don't know if you know what that means if you haven't seen that movie in a while, but everybody brings their own fast food like appetizer / side / dish. And like somebody brought McDonald's fries, somebody brought Domino's, somebody brought Taco Bell, and it was just put out on display. I would much rather have that Thanksgiving than the traditional one.
Oh, I would bring Pizza Hut breadsticks.
Right. Like I would bring cheesy bread from Domino's. Bill would bring French fries from somewhere, and it would be better than any gourmet turkey stuffing dish that you could ever come up with.
I like turkey too. All right,
turns out he hates American cuisine too.
Yeah. Landis, what are you eating?
I've had to update my top 5 breakfast burritos because I had one the other day from I think it's a food truck in Columbus. It's called Bite Me, which is a great name. Their breakfast burrito is top notch, and I have it now. It's now number 4 on my list. I'd like to give you the list if that's okay.
Write this down.
Number 1 is Tio Sophia's. It's like a cafe in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Just smother that thing in cheese and green and red chili. It's great. Number 2, which is more attainable, I think, for folks in the Big Ten landscape, Muchachos in Lincoln, Nebraska. It's like a barbecue place, but they do a barbecue brisket breakfast burrito that'll knock your socks off.
Okay.
Number 3 is Konos Cafe in San Diego, Pacific Beach, right there on the ocean.
Okay.
Number 4 is Bite Me, the one I just had from the food truck here in Columbus. And then number 5, I can't remember the name, but there was a food truck at the Rose Bowl Media Day in 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were
That's what I
so
was gonna
good.
say.
They were so good. I can't remember what they
You
were
were
called, but I just
so-
like stopped. I stopped interviewing people, just standing by the food truck, housing
You were
breakfast
so
burritos.
enthralled by that burrito that I was able to buy the Tate Martell story
know.
for you for $10, and that's the day that Tate Martell threw a jab at Justin Fields.
Yes, it was,
That
and I was
was-
perfectly content because they were so good.
you were in a food. Did you know the story, Doug? Where I paid him
I-
$10?
When you guys were at the Athletic, you bought
Yeah,
the
we
story
both
from him?
were covering Ohio State, and we were like fighting over angles. And I said, I will give you $10 or $20 out of my wallet right now if you let me have the Tate Martell angle when he's made it, because it was at the time where he was only made available once a year,
Yeah.
and I was like,
I
I,
was
want
there.
Tate Martell.
I wrote it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the day he
Wow.
popped off and said, if you swing
Yes.
twice, you better not miss. And Landis was in the back corner eating his breakfast burrito. And he was like, and I was like, yeah, baby.
Like, what do you
Phil
say?
was like, feels like worth it.
What he say?
Worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because that breakfast burrito had tater tots in it.
it did. Yes, which I think is, you don't need it. Like, so 3 of the 4 that I listed do not have tater tots in them, but that one did, and the one I had here in Columbus had tater tots in it. Yeah,
I think that if you're going to be in my top 5, I think you have to have tater tots to have that crunch in it.
Yeah.
yeah, that's fair. Yeah,
But I think, I mean, for me, because I wasn't working with you guys, so I could have both.
Yeah.
I ate a breakfast burrito with tater tots in it, and I interviewed Tate Martell and wrote a story about it. It's one of the 10 best days of my life.
Have you ever bought something from somebody for cheaper than it was worth and then felt bad after? Like, I had remorse. Like, I felt like I ripped
Yeah.
him off. Like, I was like, I gave him $20, but like my boss is going to think I'm awesome at my job today.
he became
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
became the lead national writer because he paid me $20.
And now I'm here. Thanks, Bill.
Oh my God, for real. Oh my God. Is that what happened? And
Kind
then,
of.
oh,
No, I actually
Wow.
strong-armed my company to say I'm not going to be on the Ohio State beat anymore unless you let me move to be near my girlfriend. And they were like, you can just do this instead. That's what happened.
wow. I had the clip on my phone for a while, like when we got done with that Tate Martell interview, and I said, like, man, you don't know, we've been waiting to talk to you for a while. And he was like, yeah, I know. And like, it was like a 7-second clip. I had it on my phone for 4 years. I just like to look at it sometimes and be like, look at this. This is player and media coming together and everybody thriving, you know?
Yeah.
So my eating, I can't believe you said that. Because when I say, when I think breakfast burrito, I think that Rose Bowl food truck. That's number 1 for me. I'm so happy you said it. I just want to talk about like when you go to a restaurant, and I was at Culver's the other day, this happens, but it was also like at A&W Root Beer and maybe other places. If you go to a place that has root beer on tap at the fountain for the sodas, you got to get root beer, right? Or
Yeah,
you're a lunatic.
That's the only time I have root beer.
Yes, me too. But I
Yeah.
thought this because this is how Ari would characterize this. I actually thought it while I was doing it. I was thinking to myself, this will be a good Whatcha. And I was like, oh, Ari's going to be on, because Ari would say, if you go to a root beer restaurant and you don't get root beer to drink, you're a psychopath.
Right.
Right? So
Right.
do you agree with that, Ari?
I do. If I were at you never see A&W on tap. I actually am not a huge root beer fan. I actually think that most root beer tastes the same. Like, it's indecipherable to me. But if I were at A&W or I was a place that had root beer on draft, I agree with that. I would have it.
Yeah. You have to get it. Okay. Is this even not an interesting Whatcha? Because everybody listening and watching is like, yeah.
Well, if
Of
you want to make it
course.
more interesting, you can do your draft of best ways to consume soda, like can, glass bottle, plastic
everyone
bottle,
thinks
draft.
fountain. Everyone thinks fountain's number 1, right?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that a tall, ice cold can of regular Coke on a hot day is pretty great.
Yeah. yeah.
Oh.
And plastic bottle's the worst.
Plastic bottle's the worst.
But I do think, but no one drink a glass bottle anymore. It's like, are you a freaking billionaire? I don't have money. To
I
drink
had a
out of
glass bottle Coke the other day. It was great.
Glass bottle
Really?
Coke is like a novelty that you see in a lot of restaurants now because it's made with
Okay.
real sugar and it's the Mexican Coke, and that
Mhm.
and I can get down with other people's other cultures' soda choices.
Yeah.
Glass Coke is really good, and and a lot of they have it in Chipotle, like they have it in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Ari, what are you thinking about?
We had Clark Lee on our show the other day,
Mhm.
and him and Andy were bonding before the show about like how much they love coffee. Okay. And Clark Lee was talking about how they have this amazing coffee maker in their practice facility that he has 2 cups in the morning and 1 cup in the afternoon. And Landis, I knew you were a big coffee guy, so I wanted to bring this up. Then Andy is an avid coffee drinker, much like you are, and then started complaining about how, not complaining, but pointing out that the coffee machine that he has in his house is not very good. And I just want to say that I think that if you use something every day or something's important to you or an integral part of like what you enjoy, that you should invest in that. Like, I find it absolutely insane that you would use, or you're a big coffee person and you don't have a great coffee machine in your house. And that goes across the board for anything. If you're a big video game person, then invest in the right TV. If you're a big music person, then invest in the headphones. If you're going to use something every day, spend the money to get the best version of the thing that you use every day and cut corners somewhere else. Never cut corners on the things that you enjoy the most.
I agree.
What did Andy say to your argument? Did he go buy a coffee machine?
I think he should go buy one. Like, I berated him about it. I was like, that's
he
insane.
mortgaged his house and bought a
like I understand too that like not everybody's in the same financial situation, and some people might not have the prerogative of splurging on anything. But like, if you do something every day and it's like the thing that you enjoy the most, like there's no amount of money that I wouldn't spend to like scratch that itch if it's something that's an important part of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do think things are just off in life sometimes. It's like, well, I don't want to spend $200 on that thing that I would use every day, but I went out to dinner last night and it was $200.
Yeah, and it was
what
chili.
are you doing?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. You're changing lives, Ari. You're changing lives here.
Yeah.
I hope you changed Andy's.
I hope he does it. Yeah.
Yeah. What are you doing? What are you thinking about, Bill?
Do you guys see this this jewel heist in Paris?
Yeah.
I saw that.
They stole the crown jewels from the Louvre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it took like 8 minutes, and the way they did it was like
They're gonna
smash and grab. Smash and grab.
Mhm.
I just want to know, like, am I allowed? I'm a law-abiding citizen. Am I allowed to think a jewel heist is cool as long as no one gets hurt? No one got hurt. I thought it was sweet.
Well,
It's cool.
Yeah.
so you heard the Louvre was robbed, and then
Yeah.
I initially was like, oh no. I didn't know they wouldn't be able to get the Mona Lisa, but like some great painting, right? Some painting that people get pleasure out of going through and looking at this painting from the 1700s, whatever, is gone. And it's like, no, some fancy rocks got stolen. I don't give 2 craps about those fancy rocks. Take them.
You took Napoleon's crown. I don't care.
But if they would have taken the Mona Lisa, you would have been upset about it, right?
Because I don't know how any person derives pleasure from like, oh man, look at those jewels sitting there. Man, I love looking at those jewels.
Well,
but I get why someone loves art.
I understand that the motive of stealing the Mona Lisa or the jewels would be the same, and that's where my confusion was, which is if you were going to steal something that's so invaluable you couldn't find a person to buy it without moving it in some high class like black market deal with the richest person on earth, like what's the point of even doing it? Like if I were to rob something, I would want to rob something that, I listened to this podcast about this guy who robbed the Bellagio casino. And I think I even when we were in Vegas, the entrance that he robbed he went to a craps table, robbed all the expensive chips and then ran out the side door. That side door is still functional somehow. But then like in the bag, he stole all these chips that were like 500,000 cranberry chips that like only high rollers got their hands on. And it's like, what's the point of going through that and like holding up people at gunpoint in a casino, which is like the highest crime outside of murder or something else, like in Vegas, if you can't even move the thing that you stole? So my hope is that whoever stole those jewels, whether you care about them or not, isn't just like at home with really expensive jewels that are basically because like there are certain things in life that are so valuable they essentially become worthless because you can't get money.
You can't. I was listening. The New York Times, The Daily, did like a full episode about it. You can't. Like Interpol traces all of it, so like you can't sell them as is on the black market. But the theory is the reason they stole the things they stole are because they were like they're valuable, but they were also like the easiest to break down into smaller jewels. So like you cut them into unrecognizable whatever and sell them on the black market that way. Because there was something in that room where they stole the stuff from. I think it was like some kind of jewel that was like Napoleon owned or something. that was like more expensive than all the stuff they stole together, but it was also incredibly recognizable. It's like you could never prove it. So they stole things they could break down.
So there's going to be somebody in Bexley, Ohio, that has an engagement ring with a piece of the crown jewel in it.
The crown jewels of France.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah,
but it did make you feel guilty to think it's cool, right, Landis?
No, I first wanted to make sure that no one was hurt, and then like the brazenness to just do it. It was 9:30 in the morning on a Sunday. There were people in there, and they just did. And I guess the other thing was, it makes sense, but like the museum security that was in the room first escorted everybody out of the room because they're instructed to like protect the people in there, don't protect the items, like because of like the person has whatever a weapon of some kind. So they got all the people out, and when they got back into the room, the guys were going with the jewels.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, maybe they'll change that policy. It's like, I don't
have
know.
you guys been to the Louvre?
No, I've never been to France. No.
I've been to the Louvre.
I went. I'm sure. I don't know if it was the same. I'm sure it's the same mechanism for getting in, but I remember it being incredibly crowded, and it took forever, and there was security and this whole thing. So like, I was in the marvel of like, it kind of made me feel like it was like an Ocean 11 situation.
They just climbed the ladder and smashed a window.
Yeah, and like the fact that it was like so pedestrian is the most outrageous part about it.
Yeah.
Like you would think in order to get in there, you'd have to, because it took us an hour to get in just to be a tourist.
Right.
I can't imagine just going in there and doing that and leaving. Yeah.
It's definitely gonna be a movie, right? There'll be a movie.
Yeah.
You'll go watch it.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I will go watch it.
Um,
Maybe this conversation will be part of the movie.
God, isn't that the dream? Who would play us as the podcasters talking about the heist?
Jonah Hill.
Josh Peck.
but like the new Jonah Hill. Like Jonah Hill is hot now.
Yeah.
Just like
Jonah Hill went too far in the other direction with it, I think. He looks weird. I think he looked better fat, to be honest.
Yeah. Next time you walk past a fridge and there's a pizza in there, just think to yourself, I don't want to be like Jonah Hill and go too
frail.
far.
Yeah.
I'm going to eat that whole pizza. So I was watching a cover band the other day, and it's like the cover band, I think, had like a singer, a guitarist, a bassist, a drummer, and it was one of those that has like a horn section. And I think they had a sax, a trumpet, and a trombone. And I was just wondering to myself, how does a cover band divide up the money it makes? Because there's no way that the sax player should get as much money as the singer. And there's no way that the trumpet player should get as much money as the guitarist. But like, who's in charge of determining that? Because if you're a real band, like you figure it out on the ground floor, right? And I don't know what the Beatles did, right? I mean, maybe they split everything equally.
They broke
maybe
up
they were
because
like,
they couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
but like when you're a cover band, then it's like, oh yeah, I play the trombone in a cover band. It's like, but it's like I get 4%. Like, because how could the trombone get as much as the singer? But do you think that tears the band apart figuring it out? Do you think there are feelings there? But also, you can't be the singer who's the draw being like, I can't believe this freaking sax player makes as much as me.
And come back to the next episode of Bill and Doug, where Doug will outline the issues with NIL.
Yeah. That's true. But that's the whole thing, is like, we're going to give everybody the same amount. It's like, no, you're not, because Jeremiah Smith and a third string offensive lineman aren't the same. And I'm sorry, trombone player, but in a cover band, you're the third string offensive lineman. So how do you think they actually do it? What's the conversation like?
I bet they split it evenly. It can't be that much money to begin with. Where were you?
Yeah.
Like at a bar somewhere?
At a festival where they were playing in front of an elementary school.
So they were probably getting paid what, $100?
Yeah. Getting paid in apple juice. What are you talking about?
But doesn't that seem crazy to you that it would be equal? It's not equal. Because like half the time, like the trombone goes ba-bum, and then just goes like this for like 3 minutes while the guitar player's playing the whole song. It's not equal. If there's somebody who's in a cover band who can actually explain this to us, let us know.
Maybe the horns don't even get paid.
That's true.
They're just
That's all I could think about. I couldn't even enjoy the band anymore because I was just thinking about what is the breakdown of this.
Which position in football is the trombone or the horn player?
Holder.
Yeah.
Long snapper.
Long snapper. And then so then the long snapper could also be like, well, if you don't have a good snap, this whole thing falls apart. The horn guy goes, you don't have a horn? That's fine. You want to pay somebody else 3%? That's fine. Go find somebody else who will take 3%, but I'm not going to do it because I'm essential. You need the horn.
But go ask the Chiefs long snapper if he makes the same amount of money as Patrick Mahomes, right? It's just I don't know how much that is seeped into music culture. So
He's
you
also
built
not
honestly
outside in the heat in front of a Kroger either. Like
right. You think it's honestly broke? You bet it's even, Bill. That's your guess. You think it's even?
For something like that, I bet it's even. Yeah.
Ari, you think it's even or no?
I think it's probably or it's even amongst everybody playing a position, instrument, and like the singer like takes most of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's not even, but also I could see how like it would tear you apart.
Because you know what tears me apart? Like the Dave Matthews Band or bands that were named after the guy, and everybody else involved in it doesn't even get namesake in it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Especially when Dave Matthews is the worst part of the Dave Matthews Band.
Oh wow.
Dave Matthews is great.
But
I don't know. I don't understand the people that went on tour with him for 19 years straight. But like, do you think it's the same thing with that? Like, does Dave Matthews get 99% and then everybody else is just get out of here, you piece of shit? You're not Dave Matthews.
but if it's even, don't you think at some point that like the guitar player and Dave Matthews was like, do we need the horns? I don't want this split up 7 ways. I want 1/4, not 1/7. Do we need these horns? It's like Rutgers. Like you don't, if you're not additive, you're just adding pieces of the pie to the conference. Is the horn that additive? I would not want to be in a band with horns because I don't want to
cable
split
boxes.
Up
The horns
pieces.
can get you though.
I know.
I just could never imagine. Like, could you imagine if this show was just the Bill show, and like you were on it every day, but like you're like the namesake thing would bother me more than the money. I think about that. I've thought about that for 20 years.
No, that's why Ryan Russillo left like the Scott Van Pelt show because they wouldn't put his name on it.
Yeah.
And he was like the co-host. He's like, I'm leaving on table. It's like the SVP show. This is
called the Andy and Ari show for a reason now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did Andy try to keep it Andy? And you were like, I'm not coming unless you put Ari on it?
No, but we discussed what the show would be called before I took the job.
Was it always going to be a 2-name show or did you discuss other names?
We discussed other names, but we knew that it wouldn't, because like the first 3 years I was on his show, it was called the Andy Staples Show. And I was the guy I was in the Dave Matthews Band.
Yeah. Oh, this
really
like
I'm on the
you.
show.
I'm sorry.
50% of the time. Yeah. I was the horn guy for a while. Well, no, I was being treated like the horn guy, but I was doing the guitar.
Yeah. Wow, that's the worst. Oh man. I really think you should leave Andy and come join us. We would appreciate your horn.
I'll be the little Ari. You can replace Ann and just put Ari there. I don't even need to have the same. Just put my name on. No, we figured it out. Andy was a good sport about it. He said, "Yeah, no, absolutely. If you come, we're gonna do it." So like, if he was Dave Matthews and he was able to recognize that there was something else to it than just him,
That's
you know.
Crazy. Can you imagine if the Dave Matthews Band just became like the Dave Matthews and Steve Band? You know, like that's what happened here. Very magnanimous by Andy Staples. All right. And Ari got no cut of this show. So he just gave us 2 hours of his time. 2 hours of his time.
Don't need one.
Ari Wasserman, thank you so much for joining us here. It's always a pleasure. Where can the folks find you if they just think to themselves, my God, I want more of this?
They won't. But if they do, just search the On3 channel on YouTube and we come up on there. At Ari Wasserman on Twitter, where you will find all of the links to our stuff, and then on3.com is where my columns appear.
All right. And what's the next game? The next game? Are you going to a game this weekend, or is the next game going to be in Columbus? Okay.
No, next game's Columbus, Ohio. Big Penn State bash, and I can't wait to do it. Unfortunately, we booked this a long time ago, and I'm missing Halloween with my daughter, and this is the first time that I'm missing something in her life, and I'm having a hard time with it.
Yeah.
Because the game's at noon.
Yeah, that stinks. That stinks.
Yeah,
but then you'll make up for it. You'll go in and read to her class and stuff, and they'll be okay. All right. So Ari Wasserman, great friend, great college football media member. Go check him out at On3. Thanks for joining us. We will catch you guys for our National Picks show on Friday. And of course, if you want more Ohio State coverage, you can find us at BillAndDougOSU.substack.com. For now. Thanks to Ari. He's Bill Landis. I'm Doug Lesmerises. And that was, what did we talk about? What we did like a...
Who could win the national title? I thought you were going to make a funny joke there and say this was the Bill show or something, or the Doug show.
Yeah. No, I just was going to be like, what did we talk about? That was a national title discussion on the Bill and Doug show.